Chapter 885. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. Are you sure you have this kind of grass in your mountain? Marquis Xianping asked. His tone was unprecedentedly serious. No. Changjing lied. Marquis Xianping nodded. Well, do you want to go back by yourself or do you want me to take you back? Changjing said. I said no. Marquis Xianping continued with his plan. Or you can write a letter to your father and tell him that I kidnapped you and ask him to exchange the purple grass for you. Changjing said. I don't have it in my mountain. I was wrong. Marquis Xianping shook his head. Forget it. Dark Night Island is remote. Normal spies can't find its entrance. I'll go there myself. Changjing was speechless. His little vest was dropped just like that. He had fed Zhu Zhangquang poison for nothing. Marquis Xianping said, Go pack your things. We'll leave tomorrow morning. Changjing went to the next room bitterly. Gu Jiao asked Marquis Xianping, What's wrong with Changjing? Do you know that he's the young master of the Dark Knight sect? Marquis Xianping said with a headache, I just found out. I heard it from Gong Sun Yu's swordsman. When I met him on the side of the road, he was dirty and hungry. I asked him where his home was, but he didn't tell me. I asked him to come with me, but he didn't want to. Later, I won a few rounds with him. Marquis Xianping didn't think that Changjing was an ordinary kid because he knew martial arts. However, he didn't say anything about his identity. Marquis Xianping thought that he was being chased by his enemies. Marquis Xianping asked Gu Jiao, You seem to know it already? She wasn't surprised to hear about the Dark Night Island. Gu Jiao said honestly, When I first came to the Yin Kingdom, I followed Nangong Li to a pawn shop and overheard his conversation with his confidant. That's how I learned about Changjing's identity. Marquis Xianping looked at Yi Qing. The Dark Night Island and the Yin Kingdom's State Preceptor Palace seemed to have some connections. The master of the Dark Knight sect had even paid a personal visit to the State Preceptor's palace and was received by the monarch of the Yin Kingdom. Yi Qing said, My master does have some friendship with the Dark Night Island Lord. If General Xiao doesn't mind, I'm willing to go to the Dark Night Island with you. Marquis Xianping had abducted the other party's son. Now that he was here to ask for medicine, the other party would naturally not agree to it easily. With the help of the disciples of the Imperial Preceptor Hall, the conflict would be resolved by a lot. Changjing packed her things angrily. Marquis Xianping walked in, glanced at him, and asked faintly, You don't want to go back? Changjing felt stifled. It was not easy for him to run away from home, but when he returned, he would be locked up by his father again. Marquis Xianping said, If your father bullies you, I will beat him up for you. Changjing said without hesitation, That won't do. His father was a little annoying, but he couldn't let anyone bully his father. When Marquis Xianping heard this, he understood that Changjing had no conflicts with his family. He was just a rebellious youth. Forget it, just beat him up. Changjing sighed and said, You can't beat him anyway. Marquis Xianping. The matter of going to the Dark Night Island was settled. In order to let Changjing lead the way willingly, Marquis Xianping finally bought him a box of glass marbles that he had been coveting for a long time. The road to the Dark Night Island was not easy, especially when winter was coming. It was very likely that they would encounter a strong snowstorm when crossing the ice field. Changjing said, After October, my father doesn't allow people on the island to go out. It was because it was too dangerous. Human strength was not worth mentioning in front of natural disasters. We have to cross the ice field in the north of the Yin Kingdom before the snowstorm arrives. If you bring your son, it will be too late. So Sheng Guanqing could not go with them. Marquis Xianping agreed, Okay. Changjing reminded him, But it's also very dangerous to come back. Even if my father is willing to give you those weeds, you will be in November and December, when the snowstorm will sweep across the ice field. I know. Marquis Xianping did not hesitate at all. You and Yi Qing stay on the Dark Night Island. I will come back first. Changjing was surprised. You want to cross the ice field in a month? You can't cross it. In fact, even if many masters traveled together, they still could not resist the bad weather on the ice field. Marquis Xianping was not as serious as usual. He said firmly, "The antidote is in my hands. I can cross it." 20 years ago he could not save Xiaoqing. This time, even if he was smashed to pieces, he would bring the antidote back for his son. Changjing had already learned what had happened. She glanced at Marquis Xianping and said, "Didn't you say it might not be the antidote? He might have been poisoned to death. Was it worth it for an uncertain result?" Marquis Xianping went to say goodbye to Gu Jiao. "Take care of Qing." It was a pleading tone. "I will," Gu Jiao said. "Have you really decided to go?" Marquis Xianping said seriously, "We will leave tomorrow morning." He had made up his mind. Gu Jiao did not persuade him anymore. "Then I will pack some emergency medicine for you." Marquis Xianping did not refuse. Gu Jiao opened the small medicine box, took out frostbite cream, anti-inflammatory drugs, iodophor, gauze and other emergency medical supplies. She packed them in a bag and sent it to Yiqing. "Remember to remove the stitches in 3 days," Gu Jiao said. Yiqing was slightly stunned. "General Xiao is injured?" Gu Jiao said. "He was stabbed by Gong Sanyu. The wound was quite deep. He needed 4 stitches. Going to the Dark Night Island like this, he really did not want to live." Yiqing sighed and took the bag. "I will remember." Gu Jiao said. "Treat him well. He is my husband's father." "Oh," Yiqing subconsciously responded. After responding, he suddenly realized something. "Your husband's father? Aren't you a man? How come you have a husband? What kind of joke is this?" Before dawn, Marquis Xianping and the other 2 set off. On the way to the Dark Night Island, they would pass by Pucheng. Marquis Xianping went to Shangguanyan and Shangguanqing to say goodbye. Shangguanqing fell asleep, so Marquis Xianping did not wake him up. He only said a few words to Shangguanyan. The 2 stood in the courtyard of the city lord's mansion and spoke softly. Shangguanyan asked, "Are you going to find purple grass for Qing?" Marquis Xianping said, "Purple grass poison is the only way. Although it may not succeed, it is better than doing nothing." On this point, Shangguanyan and Marquis Xianping had the same opinion. As long as there was a 1 in 10,000 chance, it was worth a try. Shangguanyan looked at him without blinking. "Where are you going to find it? Will it be dangerous?" Marquis Xianping said lightly, "There is no danger in the north. It is just a bit far. It is inconvenient to take Qing with me." Shangguanyan was not easy to fool. Shangguanqing was in danger. Who knows when he will fall down? It was the safest to take him to find the antidote. But Xiaoji didn't take him with him, indicating that the danger on the road was fatal. Seeing her silent, Marquis Xianping smiled and said, "If it's fast, I will be back next month. You tell Qing, or not to worry." Shangguanyan looked at him deeply. Her lips moved slightly, but in the end she only said, "Take care on the road." Marquis Xianping nimbly mounted his horse. Shangguanyan turned her head and turned her back. "Shangguanyan." Marquis Xianping suddenly spoke. Shangguanyan's footsteps stopped. The 2 didn't look back. In the cold wind, she heard him sigh softly. "It's not worth crying for a man like me." After Jin country lost 2 cities in a row, the 4th prince went out on behalf of the emperor and revived the morale of the Jin army. In another battle, the Jin army made a beautiful comeback and protected the 3rd border city that Wang Man led his troops to attack. Wang Man was shot in the shoulder by the Jin army and was seriously injured. Liao Chen only rested for a day, and then went to battle again. He took over Wang Man's position, and led the imperial army to continue to fight against the Jin army. Qing Feng also came to the front line. Before organizing the attack, Liao Chen threw him a set of armor. "Wear it." Liao Chen said lightly, "Didn't you want to kill me? Then you'd better not get hurt." Qing Feng frowned. "I don't wear other people's armor." Liao Chen put his hands behind his back. His peach blossom eyes were light. "It's new, no one has worn it." The old one was on Liao Chen. Liao Chen's armor was broken. He was taller than the average soldier. In the camp, there were old and new suits of armor suitable for him. Mid-October. Zhao country's 50,000 Gu army crossed the border from the Great Yan and arrived at the western border. They went straight to Jin country's Chuyang Pass. The arrival of Gu family's cavalry reduced the pressure on the Black Wind cavalry, who always rushed to the front line. Gu Chongqing strongly urged his sister to retreat to Chuyang City and leave the siege to him. Gu Jiao led the Black Wind cavalry back to Chuyang camp after a month of continuous fighting. Sheng Guanqing was also brought back by her. At the end of October, the allied army of Zhao country and Qin country arrived at Jin country's Weishui Pass. At the same time, the Tujue in the north of Jin country also became restless. Jin country was attacked from both front and back. The morale accumulated by the fourth prince, who represented the emperor, was almost exhausted. News of victory came from the front line one after another. The armies of the other countries had entered Jin country's hinterland and occupied Song country and Yin country. They would soon take Ji country. In November, Chuyang City welcomed the cold winter. Thick snow fell on the camp. Gu Jiao carried a wooden bucket to the well to fetch water. All the soldiers had been sent out. There was not enough manpower in the camp. She usually did these small things herself. Teacher who wanted to help her, but he was not as strong as Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao threw the wooden bucket into the well. When she was about to turn it back up after fetching water, she found that the axle was frozen. Footsteps in the snow came from behind her. At this time, only teacher who would follow her. Gu Jiao reached out her hand. "Give me a dagger." He handed her a very delicate dagger. Gu Jiao's brain was frozen. She did not pay attention to the outer shell of the dagger for a moment. There was a faint residual warmth on the dagger. It was so warm. With a click, she pried open the ice on the axle. "Here." She returned the dagger to teacher who. She turned the bucket around, and just as she was about to lift it, a slender jade-like hand reached out and grabbed the handle of the wooden bucket before she could. This action made the other person suddenly very close to her. Her back was almost pressed against the other person's warm chest. A familiar fragrance and breath enveloped her. She turned around in a daze and was caught off guard by a pair of gentle eyes. He slightly raised the corner of his lips. His magnetic voice was low and clear. "Gu Jiao Jiao. Long time no see." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/1052802999. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 886. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more frequently. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. Gu Jiao's ears tingled, and her little heart skipped a beat. Xiao Heng was wearing a silver fox cloak. The soft fox fur swayed gently in the cold wind, brushing against his handsome face. After not seeing him for 2 months, he seemed to have grown a little. His face was more delicate and handsome, and his eyes had a bit more of the royal aura of a person in a high position. But there was no arrogance in them. The white snow behind him wrapped in silver, and the mountains and rivers were picturesque, but it couldn't take away any of his elegance. Gu Jiao stared at him blankly. "Why are you here? Didn't you return to Sheng capital?" The news she received was that the emperor's grandson had finished his negotiations and was returning to the capital. Xiao Heng put the wooden bucket on the mouth of the well. He held the handle of the wooden bucket with one hand and gently rubbed her hair with the other. "If I don't say that, how can I give you a surprise?" Very good. Nowadays, he didn't have to be reserved when it came to flirting. He was getting bolder and bolder. Gu Jiao's gaze fell on his hand holding the wooden handle. She saw very clearly just now that he lifted such a big bucket of water with ease. "Oh, you've become stronger too," Gu Jiao muttered to herself. His arm strength had the strength of an adult man, and even his breath and voice had changed, becoming more mature and steady. Xiao Heng gently pinched her delicate and cool chin. "You've lost weight again. Did you not eat well?" Gu Jiao said seriously. "I ate well. I eat a lot every day." This was the truth. In order to replenish her strength, she didn't treat herself harshly in terms of food. However, she was exhausted from fighting all day long, so she was still thinner than when she was in Sheng capital. Xiao Heng's lips curled up, and his fingertips gently stroked her chin. "Did you become haggard because of me, Gu Jiao?" "Gu Jiao? When did this guy suddenly become so flirtatious?" Gu Jiao pursed her lips and raised her eyebrows. "Didn't you lose weight too? Is that because you miss me too? Be shy, young man." Unexpectedly, Xiao Heng chuckled and looked at her deeply. "There's a beauty here I won't forget. I haven't seen you for a day and I miss you like crazy." Gu Jiao's delicate body trembled. Aya! How could his cultivation be so profound? Xiao Heng looked at her shocked expression and couldn't help laughing in his heart. After all, she was about to get married. She couldn't be teased by her and blushed like before. He had grown up. He was going to be her man. He definitely did not secretly practice on the road. The winter wind was as cold as a knife. Gu Jiao's fingertips were cold. Xiao Heng took off his silver fox cloak and draped it over Gu Jiao's stiff body. His body heat and scent lingered on the cloak, making it warm and fragrant. Gu Jiao took a deep breath and her whole body began to warm up. Xiao Heng raised his slender fingers and tied the ribbon of the cloak for her bit by bit. He then pulled the hood of the cloak over her little head that was frozen in a daze. Gu Jiao looked behind him and asked in confusion, Where's Long Yi?" "He left," Xiao Heng said. On a snowy morning, he opened his eyes and found that Long Yi was no longer beside him. Long Yi had sent him to a safe place before leaving. Now Long Yi had probably gone to find his memories and answers. Oh. Gu Jiao lowered her eyes and was a little disappointed. Now she could sense more and more emotions, and some of them made her sad. "Pa." She pressed her forehead against his sturdy chest. Xiao Heng raised his strong arm and gently hugged her in the cold wind. "It's okay. I believe that one day, we will see Long Yi again." Gu Jiao. As for Wenrenchong, Li Shun, and Zhao Dingfeng, these three people came to the side of the well to draw water. They saw two figures hugging each other from afar. One was clearly a man, and the other was covered by a cloak. However, from his military boots, they could see that he was a soldier of the camp. In broad daylight, two grown men were whispering sweet nothings to each other. What kind of scandal was this? This was simply... The three people rolled up their sleeves and wanted to pull out the two people and punish them according to military law. However, Li Shin suddenly stopped and said, "Little commander?" Zhao Dingfeng and Wenrenchong stared at him. That little face under the cloak. Wasn't that the little commander? He. Wenrenchong stood in the middle of the two people. He was the first to raise his hand and cover the eyes of the two people. Almost at the same time, Li Shun and Zhao Dingfeng also raised their hands and covered Wenrenchong's eyes. Gu Jiao felt warm in his bosom. Xiao Heng lowered his head slightly and whispered in her ear with a teasing smile. Your subordinates saw it. In the place where she couldn't see, his ears were slightly red. However, in just a moment, the cold wind calmed him down. Gu Jiao raised her head from his arms and looked around. She saw the three generals covering each other's eyes in a strange posture on the open space on the right. Oh. Gu Jiao straightened up without changing her expression. She looked at the three people and said, Li Shun, Wenrenchong, Zhao Dingfeng, come and greet His Highness Zhongsun. The three people staggered and fell to the ground together. What was going on? The little commander's boyfriend was His Highness Zhongsun. The three of them stood up a few times before standing up from the snow. They walked over to Gu Jiao and Xiao Heng awkwardly. They just said that they were going to punish them according to military law. However, one was the little commander and the other was His Highness Zhongsun. The three people looked straight ahead and saluted. Li Shun greets His Highness Zhongsun. Wenrenchong greets His Highness Zhongsun. Zhao Dingfeng greets His Highness Zhongsun. Xiao Heng looked at them calmly and said calmly, former subordinates of the Xianyuan family. I have seen your names in the library. The three people were flattered. Xiao Heng and Gu Jiao were extremely calm. They did not feel embarrassed at all. Instead, it made the three of them wonder if their minds were impure, and they had misunderstood. Maybe His Highness Zhongsun and the little commander were just brothers. The next second, His Highness Zhongsun took the little commander's hand and left in front of them. The three people were petrified. "Bring the water here," Xiao Heng said. Yes. Zhao Dingfeng was the first to react. He answered and brought the bucket over. He put down the bucket and ran away immediately. He didn't dare to stay a moment longer. Zhao Dingfeng went back to the well and covered his beating heart. He sighed and said, "The little commander is so pitiful. He actually likes men." Li Xin didn't disagree with him. "He is also an unattainable man." Zhao Dingfeng shook his head. "An unattainable man who doesn't have long to live." Achoo! In the mayor's mansion, Shang Guanqing sneezed hard. Xiao Heng used Shang Guanqing's identity to negotiate peace in Zhao State. Shang Guanqing couldn't use this identity anymore. Last time, he pretended to be His Highness Zhongsun in the tunnel to confuse Gong Sunyu. Now that there was no more danger, Shang Guanqing used his original appearance and lived in the mayor's mansion as the little ghost king of Ghost Mountain. Gu Jiao went to see him once a day, but she didn't go today. The tent was dry and cold. To save ice and charcoal, Gu Jiao didn't burn charcoal when she was alone in the tent. It was only when Xiao Heng came that she went to light a pot of charcoal. Xiao Heng looked at the gradually burning charcoal. He couldn't help but think of the days in the village. At that time, their family was poor. They only had one charcoal pot. She couldn't bear to use it herself, so she brought it into the room for him. She only came to sit occasionally. He was engrossed in copying books, and she was quietly drying clothes that couldn't be dried in the winter over the fire. Xiao Heng looked at her slender and soft waist. He couldn't help but wonder how he could calm down to copy books at that time. Gu Jiao turned around and saw Xiao Heng looking at her with deep eyes. She said, "It's almost done." Xiao Heng helped her up and let her sit in a chair. "Sit down. I'll start the fire." Gu Jiao said, "Okay." If people saw His Highness Zhongsun squatting on the ground to start a fire for her, they would be shocked. Gu Jiao looked at him with great interest. He was so handsome that he could do such a rough job as starting a fire so pleasing to the eye. Having suffered in the countryside, his movements weren't clumsy. He finished the fire in a short while. He came to Gu Jiao's side and sat down. She didn't know if it was because of the brazier or because he came to her side. Gu Jiao felt that the winter in the northwest didn't seem so cold. The two of them were far away in the east and west. They only received military intelligence from the official relay stations. They rarely mentioned private matters. For example, Xiao Heng had heard about Xianyuan Qi and the Xianyuan Seven Sons on the way here. However, the Ministry of War's secret letter didn't mention the relationship between Xianyuan Zheng and Liao Chun. After hearing Gu Jiao's detailed explanation, Xiao Heng suddenly understood. So Liao Chun is Xianyuan Zheng. Right, where are they now? Gu Jiao said, General Xianyuan is recuperating in the city lord's residence. Liao Chun went to the front lines to attack Jin. The crown princess is in Pucheng. She will come tonight. By tomorrow night at the latest. Xiao Heng nodded. Then I'll wait for her here. I'll go to the city lord's residence to pay a visit to the general. Gu Jiao said, Okay, I'll go with you. We'll also go see Shang Guanqing. Xiao Heng was shocked. Shang Guanqing is here too? His older brother? Speak of the devil. Outside the door, a little ghost soldier who acted as a eunuch shouted, The Ghost King has arrived. Xiao Heng was confused. The Ghost King? Gu Jiao explained, Your older brother. As soon as she finished speaking, the tent's curtain was lifted. In an instant, countless images of his older brother flashed through Xiao Heng's mind. Since he was his mother's biological son, he should look a lot like Xinyang. Dignified, noble, refined and scholarly. In the end, he saw a man carrying a gun. He swaggered in boldly and looked like a bandit. Xiao Heng. Digression. Shang Guanqing. Yo, I heard little brother Bookworm is here. Xiao Bookworm Hung. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896/105226/1052793444. HTML Genius memorized the website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 887. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. Although Xiaoheng didn't announce it to anyone before he came, he entered the city early in the morning as the imperial grandson. General Xianyuan Qi was in charge of the city lord mansion, so the news of the imperial grandson's arrival was naturally sent over there as soon as possible. Shang Guanqing was also recuperating in the city lord mansion. He had been sick these days. When he heard that his bookworm brother had come, he immediately became energetic and brought his younger brother to show off. At this time, the sky was already bright. There was the reflection of the snow in the tent, the thin light from the sky, and the little flames from the burning charcoal. It was not too bright, but intertwined together. It was just enough to outline the clear outline of each person. The two brothers met in such a scene. The picture in Xiaoheng's mind cracked, and his action of peeling oranges for Gu Jiao stopped. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Shang Guanqing was very satisfied with Xiaoheng's dumbstruck reaction. His appearance was really shocking, and he shocked this little brother at once. Shang Guanqing waved his hand and motioned the ghost soldiers outside to retreat. After the show was over, it was time to officially meet. After Marquis Xianping exposed Gu Jiao's little disguise, he and Gu Jiao had already been honest with each other. He simply greeted her and turned his head to look at his bookworm brother's face. "Ah, it's really like that," he whispered. He had disguised himself with this face for many years. How could he not recognize it? But looking at it from the bronze mirror or from the portrait was not as shocking as seeing it face to face. "So I've been like this all these years? It's quite good looking." He didn't know whether he was praising himself or his younger brother. When he looked at Xiaoheng without hesitation, Xiaoheng also began to look at him seriously. Xiaoheng's appearance was 40% inherited from Marquis Xianping, 40% inherited from Shang Guanyan, and 20% inherited from the Xianyuan family. Shang Guanqing, on the other hand, was half like his biological father and half like his biological mother. His eyebrows, eyes, and forehead were all perfectly inherited from Princess Xinyang. Xiaoheng had been brought up by Princess Xinyang. The two of them had the same habits and the same demeanor, which made them look like mother and son. But that was because they had never seen Shang Guanqing. When the two brothers looked at each other, Gu Jiao was also observing them. After all, they were born from the same father. No matter how different their auras were, their facial features were still somewhat similar. In the past few days, a few old generals in the imperial court had said that the Ghost King from Ghost Mountain looked a bit like the emperor's grandson. However, there were so many similar people in the world. If they were similar, then so be it. No one would suspect anything. "Are you Xiaoheng?" As the elder brother, Shang Guanqing was the first to speak. He carried the gun and said arrogantly, "Do you know who I am?" Gu Jiao glanced at him. "How dare you be so fierce to my husband? I'm afraid you'll be served in a sack." Gu Jiao looked at Xiaoheng. "Can I beat him?" Xiaoheng took Gu Jiao's hand, put the peeled orange in her palm, and said softly, "I'll go out and have a few words with His Highness the Ghost King." She couldn't beat him. Gu Jiao said regretfully. "Oh." Xiaoheng looked at the arrogant and despotic Shang Guanqing with a smile. "His Highness the Ghost King, please move." "Do you think I'll move just because you say so? You're so rude." Shang Guanqing put on the airs of an elder brother. "Come out with me." Xiaoheng suppressed the smile on his face and obediently followed Shang Guanqing out of the tent. They came to an empty drill ground. Shang Guanqing carried the big gun, looking mighty but not majestic. He stopped and looked at Xiaoheng fiercely, intending to show off his power as an elder brother. Xiaoheng said softly. Elder brother. The word elder brother directly blocked all the majestic power that Shang Guanqing was about to show off in his throat. Shang Guanqing widened his eyes in disbelief and embarrassment. In short, it was a very complicated feeling. What did you just call me? He asked seriously, staring at him. Xiaoheng said innocently, elder brother, aren't you my elder brother? Ah, why did this boy have such an expression? He looked like an innocent deer. How could he be bullied? And you called me elder brother so quickly. I didn't even scare you twice. Shang Guanqing coughed softly and tried to maintain his domineering persona. Of course I'm your elder brother. But how did you recognize me? Xiaoheng smiled slightly, showing a trace of innocent cleverness. Probably it's the telepathy between brothers. It's because you look too much like your parents. Who would believe that you're not your biological son? And your arrogant aura is exactly the same as your biological father's. No matter what Xiaoheng thought in his heart, he looked very docile and well-behaved on the surface. On the way here, Shang Guanqing had imagined countless possibilities of meeting his younger brother. His younger brother was a bookworm, and there were many bookworms in the imperial court. They thought of themselves as noble and virtuous, and looked down on ignorant and incompetent people the most. Even generals were just boorish men in their eyes. People like him, who were neither literate nor martial arts, were even less attractive to these pedantic scholars. He had been laughed at behind his back. Because they didn't live long, no one made trouble in the imperial court. Otherwise, the memorials to impeach him from being the eldest grandson of the emperor would have circled the Yin kingdom long ago. He put on such a show today because he wanted to gain the initiative by striking first and overwhelming the other party with his aura. But why was this boy so obedient? He couldn't be bullied at all. Brother, what are you holding in your hand? Xiaoheng asked curiously. When he mentioned the weapon in his hand, Shang Guanqing's confidence soared, and his aura instantly became 8 meters tall. He held the gun in his hand and showed off to Xiaoheng. You haven't seen this thing in the Zhao kingdom, right? It's called a gun, and it's very powerful. It's more powerful than those weapons. No expert can withstand it. But the range was seriously insufficient, and the accuracy was seriously insufficient. He couldn't say this, or else how could he show off? Xiaoheng looked like he didn't understand what was going on. Shang Guanqing looked around and saw that there was no one nearby, so he said to Xiaoheng, "Come here, I'll show you." Okay. Xiaoheng readily followed him. Shang Guanqing called his ghost soldiers, piled a few big stones on the open ground, and put another stone at his feet. Shang Guanqing retreated 20 steps. He couldn't aim even if he took another step back. Look carefully. Shang Guanqing stepped on the stepping stone, held the gun up domineeringly, aimed at the stone and pulled the trigger. With a loud bang, the stone was blasted away. The air was filled with the thick smell of black gunpowder. Xiaoheng almost understood what was going on. It was indeed a good invention. First of all, it was easy to frighten the enemy with its momentum. Moreover, the wounds caused by the black gunpowder were all open wounds. The visual impact was great, and it caused a lot of psychological pressure on the wounded soldiers, making it easy for them to collapse. However, this thing looked too clumsy and wasn't accurate enough. It was lethal at close range, but it had to be improved if he wanted to shoot it from a distance. Shang Guanqing turned around and smiled at his brother. How is it? Isn't it powerful? Xiaoheng's expression changed in a second, as if he was frightened by the gunshot. Shang Guanqing laughed 3 times. What kind of top scholar brother was this? So timid. You scholars are so cowardly. Shang Guanqing suddenly felt that he controlled his brother's dignity, and said proudly, "Learn from me in the future. Don't only know how to study. What's the use of being a bookworm? This time, I killed many masters in the war against the Jin kingdom. Have you heard of Xie Xingzhou? The #1 master under Gongsun Yu was killed by me, your brother. And those bastards from the Sword Hut. They were all killed by your brother." "Brother, you're amazing," Xiaoheng said with eyes full of admiration. "You're really my father's son. Even your words are exactly the same." Xiaoheng held back his laughter, and his eyes were full of shock and admiration for his brother. He was really like a younger brother. This made Sheng Guanqing very happy. He put the gun on his back and said to Xiao Heng, "You just came and haven't eaten breakfast, right? Let's go. I'll take you to eat something delicious." Xiao Heng said goodbye to Gu Jiao, and then sat in the carriage with Sheng Guanqing. Sheng Guanqing had a younger brother in the Yan kingdom, such as Prince Ming. However, Prince Ming was very annoying. He always said one thing in front of others and another behind their backs. He always slandered Sheng Guanqing and bullied him, which ruined his good impression of his younger brother. He also had a few other younger brothers, but he was not very close to them. Sheng Guanqing looked at Xiao Heng without blinking. Xiao Heng was very quiet, and there was no disgust for him at all. Those younger brothers were all afraid of him. They said that he was a sickly person, and that playing with him would also make them sick. Sheng Guanqing crossed his arms and said warily, "Hey, do you know that playing with me will kill you?" "Who said that?" Xiao Heng asked. Sheng Guanqing raised his eyebrows and said, "Anyway, that's what they said." "Are they all top scorers?" Xiao Heng asked. "Well, no. Not to mention top scorers, they were not even top scorers." "I am." Xiao Heng looked at Sheng Guanqing seriously and said with great certainty, "I'm the top scorers. I'm smarter than them. Only smart people deserve to play with you. They don't deserve to." Sheng Guanqing suddenly blushed. Is this younger brother really stupid or pretending to be stupid? What he said is too childish. But what if it's really nice to listen to? "No, I said I'll teach him a lesson. This is the rule of the Jianghu. I can't be soft-hearted." Digression. Little Jing Kong clenched his fist. "Brother Qing, hold on. Bad brother-in-law is bewitching you. He even despises me, the little prodigy of the 6 kingdoms. Don't believe his words. I still want to have an ally." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896422826/1052587171. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 888. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels can be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. Sheng Guanqing calmed down the excitement in his heart and returned to his old self, who didn't recognize anyone. Sheng Guanqing was not much more familiar with Chu Yang than Xiao Heng, but his appetite was getting worse these days. In order to make him eat more, Gu Jiao asked Teacher Hu to search for delicious food in the streets and alleys for him. He roughly remembered a few shops. The coachman was a local. After they told him the name of the shop, the coachman took them there with ease. It was a noodle shop opened by the people of Zhao, but it claimed to have the flavor of the 6 kingdoms. Sheng Guanqing ordered 2 bowls of yangchun noodles, the specialty of the Zhao kingdom. Xiao Heng looked at the noodles in the bowl, thinking that it was not exactly similar to yangchun noodles. It had nothing to do with them. Xiao Heng tasted it. It was quite ordinary. Sheng Guanqing, on the other hand, seemed to be eating with relish. He asked Xiao Heng, "How is it? Is it better than the ones in the Zhao kingdom?" Xiao Heng glanced at him and said, "Jiao Jiao's cooking is better than this." Sheng Guanqing said in surprise, "That girl can cook?" Xiao Heng's eyes flashed with gentleness. "Jiao Jiao's cooking is very good." Sheng Guanqing curled his lips. Humph, he came here to eat noodles, not to eat dog food. Chuyang City was gradually restoring order, but because of the war, the prices had risen. Yangchun noodles usually cost 6 knife coins, but now it cost 20 knife coins. This was a small increase. The price of the meat was even more outrageous. A small bowl of donkey meat was sold for 2 taels of silver. Sheng Guanqing glanced at Xiao Heng, who was eating noodles silently. He rolled his eyes and ordered 2 bowls of the most expensive donkey meat, and a jar of 30-year-old wine. By the way, you didn't bring any money when you went out, did you? He asked seriously. No. Xiao Heng shook his head blankly. He really didn't bring any money. There were eunuchs on the way to take care of food, clothing, accommodation, and transportation. The banknotes were in the military camp's luggage. Shang Guanqing patted his chest and said, It's okay. I brought it. I'm treating you to a meal as your brother. How can I let you pay for it? There's a good osmanthus cake shop over there. I'll buy it for you. Xiao Heng said hurriedly, I'll go. Shang Guanqing smiled and said, No need, no need. I'm the elder brother. I'll go. Xiao Heng thought for a moment. Okay then. Shang Guanqing reminded him. By the way, remember not to expose your identity as the eldest imperial grandson. There are assassins from the Jin state in the city. You will be in danger. Xiao Heng nodded obediently. Oh, got it. Shang Guanqing left with a smile. As soon as he left the shop, he pulled over the shop assistant at the door and casually said, The person who came with me just now, he's paying the bill. The two of them were good-looking, and their clothes were extraordinary. One look and one could tell that they were the young masters of a wealthy family. The shop assistant smiled politely and said, Yes, sir. After Shang Guanqing walked to the opposite side, he turned around and sneered at Xiao Heng, who was eating noodles slowly in the shop. Silly little brother. Just wait to be beaten up. Shang Guanqing really went to the shop that sold osmanthus cake. It was not for anything else, but because he could see the noodle shop directly across the street. He wanted to witness the dark history of the top scorer's little brother with his own eyes. He went up to the second floor and asked for a first-class room. He also ordered a pot of the most expensive tea, crossed his legs, and watched the show leisurely. He should be beaten out soon, right? When should he make a move? Would it be too cruel when he was beaten until he cried for his father and mother? Shang Guanqing waited for a long time, but he did not see any movement at the door of the noodle shop. What's going on? Could it be that he was beaten to death inside? Oh, I forgot that the shop has a backyard. If they are attacking the boy in the backyard, it will be terrible. Shang Guanqing just wanted to teach Xiao Heng a lesson. He did not intend to kill Xiao Heng. He hurried downstairs, intending to throw the money bag directly to the shopkeeper and keep the change. But his hand touched nothing. He was stunned and lowered his head to look around. Where's my money bag? When the shopkeeper saw this, his face immediately darkened. Sir, did you lose your money bag? It was still with you when you showed up. I don't know how it disappeared. Shang Guanqing was puzzled. How do you know? The shopkeeper rolled up his sleeves. Haha. I've heard this kind of excuse many times. You look like a dog. You're actually a swindler. Don't you know who owns this shop? How dare you swindle in my shop? You must have eaten a bear's heart and leopard's guts. Guards. Arrest him for me. Drag him to the backyard. If he doesn't hand over the money, break one of his legs. Shang Guanqing said in disbelief. You're too black-hearted. Do you want to use a leg to pay for such a small amount of money? You have no respect for the law. The shopkeeper snorted coldly. Law. This is the law of our Ziyang city. There were many wars at the border. It seemed that the local laws had indeed changed. The shopkeeper said, Arrest him. Wait. Shang Guanqing stretched out his hand and made a stop gesture. I'm the eldest grandson of the emperor. The shopkeeper took out a portrait from the counter and opened it. Do you think I haven't seen the eldest grandson of the emperor? Boy. This is the eldest grandson of the emperor. Shang Guanqing looked at the man in the portrait who was so ugly that his facial features were disorderly. His body shook. Damn. Has the image of the eldest grandson of the emperor been ruined like this? Or is it that in this day and age, a mole with a tear mark is the eldest grandson of the emperor? Shang Guanqing said seriously, This is not the eldest grandson of the emperor. The shopkeeper said, How do you know he's not? Shang Guanqing said righteously, Because I am. I've been the eldest grandson of the great Yin dynasty for 20 years. I know better than you what the eldest grandson of the emperor looks like. The shopkeeper said, You don't have a tear mark on your face. You're not. He might not be the eldest grandson of the emperor with a tear mole, but he definitely wasn't without a tear mole. This was like a scholar meeting a soldier. He couldn't explain himself clearly. Shang Guanqing was fuming with anger. However, he couldn't really shoot them with a gun. After all, they were just doing business and didn't do anything bad. Just when Shang Guanqing was held down in embarrassment, Xiaoheng came over calmly. He looked at Shang Guanqing in the shop, and a touch of surprise appeared on his face. "Brother, you're really here?" Shang Guanqing looked back. You, how did you come out?" He wanted to say how did you come out? But after thinking about it, he quickly changed the last word. He was so witty. Xiaoheng said, "Oh, I finished my noodles, so I came to find you." Shang Guanqing opened his mouth. Then did you pay for the meal?" "Yes, the total is 53 taels." "Brother, the wine is so expensive." Xiaoheng frowned. Shang Guanqing asked in a daze, "You didn't bring any money with you?" Xiaoheng opened his eyes wide and said, "Brother, did you forget? You left your purse to me." Shang Guanqing, Xiaoheng, it's on your bench. F***ck. I left my purse on the bench just now. So that 53 taels of silver, was it his money that was spent? Shang Guanqing took a breath of cold air. Don't be angry, don't be angry. It's only 53 taels. Brother, here you are. Xiaoheng returned the purse to Shang Guanqing. Shang Guanqing once suspected that this guy did it on purpose, but looking at Xiaoheng's innocent eyes, he felt that he was thinking too much. He took out the banknotes and paid the bill. The shopkeeper smiled and respectfully sent the two of them away. Shang Guanqing held his breath in his heart, and the more he thought about it on the way back, the angrier he became. He wanted to see this guy embarrass himself, but how could he be laughed at by the other party? He had lived for 20 years, and he had never suffered such a setback. He had to get back at him. "Stop the carriage," he ordered. The coachman stopped the carriage. Shang Guanqing got out of the carriage with Xiaoheng. Xiaoheng's eyes were filled with doubt as he asked, "Brother, where are we going?" The way he called him brother was really nice. Shang Guanqing's heart nearly softened. Fortunately, his heart was like steel, and he managed to stabilize himself in time. He said, "We are meeting for the first time, and I am your older brother. I should prepare a greeting gift for you. I did not prepare one ahead of time, so I will buy one for you now." Xiaoheng slightly shook his head. "No need, brother. I did not prepare one for you." Shang Guanqing heroically waved his hand and said, "That's different. I am your older brother. I must give you a greeting gift. If you continue to be so courteous with me, I will get angry." Xiaoheng hesitated for a moment and said with difficulty, "Since brother has said it like this, then Aheng will respectfully accept." Shang Guanqing hugged his shoulder and patted him, saying with a smile, "That's more like it." Shang Guanqing brought Xiaoheng to an antique shop. In these troubled times, the nearby antique shops had closed one after another. This was the only one that was still open. Xiaoheng tugged at his sleeve and quietly said, "Brother, the things here are too expensive. Let's go somewhere else." Zhao Du's young marquis, his mother was a princess, and his father was a marquis. He actually felt that a few antiques were expensive. Right, this younger brother had wandered among the commoners for a few years and lived a hard life. Shang Guanqing's heart nearly softened, but fortunately he was skilled. He smiled and said, "Don't worry. I have saved up quite a bit of private money over the past few years. Pick whatever you like. There is no need to be courteous with brother." This time, Shang Guanqing learned to be obedient. He repeatedly checked that the money bag did not fall out. In truth, even if it fell out, there was no harm. The banknotes in the money bag were not enough to buy an antique. "You look around first. I will go to the outhouse." Okay. Xiaoheng remained on the second floor to look at the antiques. Shang Guanqing went downstairs and picked up a few antiques in the main hall. "Upstairs, my younger brother will pay the bill." This trick might not have worked if it was used by others, but the two of them looked like young masters of aristocratic families. Nobody suspected that Shang Guanqing was a swindler. Shang Guanqing took the antiques and ran. "Stinky brat, let's see how you escape this time." Shang Guanqing looked up to the sky and laughed, "Ha ha ha." He carried a bag of antiques back to the carriage. As soon as he opened the curtain, he was so scared that he almost fell down. Why are you here?" Xiaoheng smiled slightly. I finished buying, so I got on the carriage and waited for my brother. Shang Guanqing was even more surprised. You finished buying? He looked at the big boxes of antiques in the carriage in shock. You bought all of them? Xiao Heng said innocently. My brother just picked these out for me and asked me to accept them. I did say that, but how did you pay the bill? Shang Guanqing touched the money bag. It was still there. Xiao Heng said with a smile. I said my brother was the eldest grandson of the emperor, and the shopkeeper said it didn't matter. He would go to the Castellan mansion to collect the bill from my brother later. Why did no one believe me when I said I was the eldest grandson of the emperor? But he believed me when I said I was the eldest grandson of the emperor. So many antiques. How much money would it cost? Your brother has saved money for more than 10 years. The little person in Shang Guanqing's heart knelt down on the ground and cried out loud. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428266/1052577790. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikugo mobile version reading website. Chapter 889. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels can be read for free. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. Xiao Heng looked at him and asked in confusion. Brother, why aren't you saying anything? Did Aheng do something wrong? Then Aheng doesn't want these things. What kind of joke was this? Things that had been given out were things that could not be taken back. Could it be taken back? Where would he, the dignified Ghost King, put his face? Shang Guanqing swallowed his broken teeth, feeling extremely aggrieved. On the way back, he did not want to say a single word to Xiao Heng. When they passed by a shop that sold dried meat, the carriage stopped. Shang Guanqing unhappily asked, What are you doing? Xiao Heng said, When I entered the city this morning, I bought dried meat from this shop. At that time, it was not done roasting, so they told me to come back in 2 hours. It should be done now. Shang Guanqing raised an eyebrow. How did you know that I like to eat dried meat? Xiao Heng was stunned. I don't know. I bought it for Jiao Jiao. Caught off guard, he was stuffed with dog food once more. Shang Guanqing's face was dark, as he decided to ignore this younger brother for the rest of his life. Xiao Heng went to the shop to get dried meat, but he still had to wait a little longer. The inside of the carriage was very stuffy, and Shang Guanqing decided to get out of the carriage to get some fresh air. He stood in front of the shop for a while. The fragrance of the dried meat was very enticing, but he did not have much of an appetite these days. From time to time, there would be customers passing by, and he would slightly move to the side to let them pass. In the end, he had no choice but to enter the shop. This shop sold dried meat and other pastries. Customers could bring them out or eat inside. At this time, there were many people, and the lobby was crowded. Xiao Heng did not like lively scenes, and went to the backyard to wait alone. Shang Guanqing indifferently looked at the noble and self-restrained Xiao Heng. The evil thoughts that he had suppressed once again emerged. He arrived behind Xiao Heng without leaving a trace. When Xiao Heng turned around to get dried meat, he stretched out his foot to trip him. The courtyard was covered with a thick layer of snow. Even if he fell, it wouldn't hurt. At most, it would just embarrass Xiao Heng. And Xiao Heng really didn't know that Shang Guanqing had come to play tricks. This move was supposed to succeed, but Shang Guanqing's stride was too big and he lost his balance. He slipped and fell forward. Aya! He cried out in surprise. Xiao Heng turned around and almost instinctively reached out to grab Shang Guanqing. The inertia was too great, and the two brothers fell into the snow together. Coincidentally, at this time, the brothel madam across the street came in from the back door to buy dried meat. As soon as she entered the backyard, 2 young men fell under her skirt. The procuress. Sheng Guanqing. Xiaoheng. The brothel keeper was startled at first, but then she was so excited that her whole body trembled, and the makeup on her face fell. She put one hand on her fat waist and pointed at the two with a handkerchief in her other hand. She gritted her teeth and said, "Where did these brats come from? How dare you take advantage of me in broad daylight? You're indecent. See how I'll deal with you." As she spoke, she bent down and was about to pull the 2 brothers' ears. The 2 brothers exchanged a look. Sheng Guanqing. Run. The 2 brothers quickly stood up from the snow. Sheng Guanqing grabbed Xiaoheng's wrist and rushed out from the back door in one breath. "You took advantage of me and then ran? Stop right there. I told you to stop. Do you hear me? Someone is coming. Capture those 2 brats for me." The 2 brothers' scalps tingled, and they ran forward as fast as they could. Over there, over there." Xiaoheng pointed to the alley on the right. "No. Left. I'm the older brother. Listen to me." Sheng Guanqing decisively pulled his brother into the alley on the left. It turned out that Sheng Guanqing didn't lead them the wrong way. The 2 of them didn't know how long they ran. After making sure that the people of Springflower House didn't chase after them, they held the fence on the side and gasped for breath. This used to be a workshop for dyeing cloth. After the war, the people in the workshop left, and the things inside were also emptied, leaving only an empty yard. Sheng Guanqing had no strength left, and he directly lay down in the snow. Xiaoheng glanced at him and lay down beside him. "How do you know to go left?" he asked. "Have you been here before?" "I haven't. It's just intuition," Sheng Guanqing said. Xiaoheng pondered for a moment and felt that it shouldn't be intuition, but experience. Sheng Guanqing wasn't a child who grew up in a house. He didn't like to study, but it didn't mean that he wasn't knowledgeable enough. Wasn't there a saying that reading 10,000 books was better than traveling 10,000 miles? It couldn't be more appropriate to describe Sheng Guanqing. Which brother flirted with the brothel's auntie on the first day they met? Sheng Guanqing habitually wanted to say girl, but when he thought of the brothel keeper's appearance, he decisively changed his words. Xiaoheng couldn't help laughing when he heard what he said. Yes, which brother was like the 2 of them? They fought all kinds of tricks when they met, and in the end, both of them were cheated. Sheng Guanqing looked at the blue sky and white clouds and said, "Hey, shouldn't scholars be honest? Or is it that being the top scholar is different from being an ordinary scholar?" "What?" Xiaoheng didn't understand for a moment. He also looked at the sky and felt very strange. Sheng Guanqing said carelessly, "You took my money pouch, didn't you? And those antiques, you did it on purpose, didn't you?" Without giving Xiaoheng a chance to quibble, he snorted and said, "I thought you were really a bookworm." Who would have thought that he was a thick-skinned little glutinous rice ball filled with black sesame? After being exposed, Xiaoheng didn't feel embarrassed at all. This was not in line with his character. He could be thick-skinned in front of outsiders, but he was not so thick-skinned in front of his own people. So, why did he get along with Sheng Guanqing so naturally? Was it because he was his brother? He could let himself go and be himself with peace of mind, because he knew him as well as he knew him. They were like each other's other selves in the world. Xiaoheng put his right arm behind his head and said lightly, "My skills are not as profound as yours." He was thick-skinned. "I'm your brother. Of course I'm better than you." Although he said that, it was just now that he really came to his senses. The moment he laid down on the snowy ground, the thoughts in his mind suddenly opened up. He didn't need any evidence. It was more like a kind of brotherly connection. He suddenly understood that this guy was teasing him. He said lightly, "Hey, top scholar, recite a poem for me." Since the window paper had been opened, Xiaoheng no longer pretended to be an obedient younger brother. He refused very coldly, "No. You've shown your true colors, haven't you?" Sheng Guanqing turned his head and glared at Xiaoheng coldly. He said sarcastically, "You're the younger brother. How dare you disobey your brother? Can't you have some self-awareness as a younger brother?" "If you want to recite it, do it yourself," Xiaoheng said lightly. He turned over in the snow and showed his back to Sheng Guanqing. Sheng Guanqing was so angry that he gritted his teeth. The little person in his heart jumped up. He picked up his stinky younger brother and beat him into the snow so hard that he couldn't be dug out. Humph! Sheng Guanqing snorted. He didn't turn over, but he closed his eyes coldly. Xiaoheng opened his eyes and felt the heat on his body dissipate little by little. He also quietly looked at the scenery in the distance. The wind had stopped, and there were more pedestrians on the street. Occasionally, passers-by noticed them and looked at them as if they were fools. They hurriedly passed by. The two brothers' meeting was very sudden. Neither of them was mentally prepared. Maybe Sheng Guanqing was a little bit, but only a little bit. From the moment they met until now, there were some topics that they had avoided mentioning. For example, should I give you back the identity of the eldest grandson of the emperor? For example, if I took the antidote that belonged to you, would you be angry? In fact, whether it was the young Duke of Zhaodu or the eldest grandson of the great Yin Emperor, both of their lives were not smooth sailing. It was hard to say who had suffered more. Xiaoheng didn't die, but the young Duke of Zhaodu died once. Sheng Guanqing was still alive, but his life was coming to an end. A gust of cold wind blew, and Xiaoheng's body was cold. "It's time to get up," he said. "Don't lie down. You'll catch a cold." He sat up. Sheng Guanqing behind him didn't respond. He looked at Sheng Guanqing strangely. Sheng Guanqing's face was pale, and his lips were bloodless. When he saw him in the camp in the morning, his face was not as ruddy as normal people, but he was not as weak as he was now. "Sheng Guanqing, what's wrong with you?" Xiaoheng raised his hand and touched his forehead. It was not hot, but his breath was very weak. Xiaoheng patted his shoulder gently. "Sheng Guanqing, Sheng Guanqing, Sheng Guanqing." Xiaoheng was not a doctor who had been ill for a long time, but he could still tell if a person was really weak. No wonder he hadn't moved since he lay down. It wasn't that he was too lazy to move, but that he couldn't move at all. "Wake up. Didn't you want to hear me recite a poem? I'll recite it to you. Snow on the mountain in May, no flowers, only cold. Hearing the plucked willow in the flute, spring has not seen. Battle at dawn with the golden drum, sleep at night with the jade saddle. Willing to slay Lulan with the sword at my waist." It's unpleasant to hear. Sheng Guanqing slowly opened his heavy eyelids and glanced weakly at Xiaoheng. Xiaoheng corrected him. "This poem is not unpleasant to hear. It's your voice." Sheng Guanqing rolled his eyes and said, "How old are you?" Xiaoheng's throat was a bit swollen and painful. His voice unconsciously carried a trace of choking that even he didn't notice. Xiaoheng let out a long breath. With just a little effort, his back was already drenched in sweat. "You don't even call me brother," Sheng Guanqing complained. Xiaoheng laughed. "Can you beat me in a fight or a test? Why should I call you brother?" Sheng Guanqing grabbed the gun in the snow. "I'll shoot you." "Brother. A wise man submits to circumstances." Sheng Guanqing snorted with satisfaction. The wind became stronger. Xiaoheng stretched out his hand. "I'll help you up," Sheng Guanqing suddenly said. "I can't wait for the antidote." Xiaoheng's hand paused. He took a deep breath and said slowly, "No, father will definitely bring the antidote back." Sheng Guanqing didn't answer. Instead, he looked at the distant sky and said, "Is she well?" He didn't say which she he was referring to. It could even be he. But Xiaoheng only froze for a moment before he understood who he was referring to. Without waiting for Xiaoheng to answer, Sheng Guanqing said in a low voice, "Take me to see her. I want to see her one more time before I leave." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964236/1052386778. HTML Genius remembers the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikago mobile reading website. Chapter 890. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, Please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. In November at the border, the wind was bitterly cold. At night, Shang Guanyin came from Pu City and went to the military camp first. She only heard that the eldest imperial grandson had come when she entered the city. With her understanding of her two sons, one was looking for a wife, and the other was looking for a younger brother. At the moment, most of them were in the military camp. Sure enough, she saw Gu Jiao and the two brothers in Marquis Xianping's tent. Shang Guanqing had already fallen asleep, and Gu Jiao was giving him an infusion. His appetite was not good these days, so Gu Jiao would give him a supplement from time to time. But tonight, the atmosphere in the tent seemed to be particularly dignified. Shang Guanyan's face changed. What's wrong? Did something happen? Is Qing not well? Shang Guanqing's situation was not good. He had been relying on the medicine of the state preceptor hall to suppress the poison, making him look no different from a normal person. In fact, his body had long been exhausted. Yi Qing said that he would not suffer too much, but he would become more and more sleepy. Maybe one day he would fall asleep and never wake up again. Xiao Heng told Shang Guanqing's idea to Shang Guanyan. Shang Guanyan fell on the chair in a daze. He really decided to do this? Go to Zhao country. It meant that he had completely given up on the antidote. The journey to Zhao country was long, and no one could guarantee that he would not die of poison on the way. If he was poisoned, wouldn't it be a wasted trip? Thinking that her son would die alone on the way back to Zhao country, Shang Guanyan's heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. She did not want to not see her son for the last time. I don't want to. At this moment, she was not the iron blood loyal crown princess. She was just an ordinary mother. But at the same time, she also understood that she did not have the right to stop Shang Guanqing from seeing Princess Xianyang. The Marquis Changjing and Yi Qing are going north. I asked around. Dark Night Island is in that direction. If the journey was easy, they would have brought Shang Guanqing. If you didn't bring it, it means that this trip is a narrow escape. The extreme north had extremely bad weather. Snowstorms wreaked havoc on the ice plains, and along with the arrival of winter, even experts would not be able to pass through. Perhaps it was because Shang Guanqing understood this that he decided to give up waiting for purple grass. He wanted to use the last moments of his life to return to his country and take a look at his home. She wanted to meet her mother. Shang Guanyan choked with sobs. When I took him away that year, I didn't ask him if he agreed or not. Now he had grown up. He couldn't decide his own birth, and he couldn't even choose his own life, but he hoped to be able to choose his own way of leaving. Life or death, it was up to him to choose. Even if he consumed the purple grass, there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance of survival. If he failed, he would not be able to return alive. It was up to him to decide whether he should take this gamble or risk his life to see his mother. Inside the tent, Shang Guanyin grabbed her son's hand and cried all night. This year's winter in Zhao country was especially cold. At the end of October, the capital had its first snowfall. In November, it snowed for half a month. After entering the 12th month, it was sunny for a few days. In a house on Vermilion Bird Avenue, Princess Xinyang sat quietly in front of the bed embroidering. In the past, there was only brush, ink, paper, and inkstone on her table. She didn't know when, but it had all been replaced with a variety of fabrics. She felt that the room was stuffy, so she called Yujin to open the window. A servant girl came in. The servant girl smiled and said, "Aunt Yujin went out. Princess, do you have any orders?" "Open the window," Princess Xinyang said. "But it's very cold outside." The servant girl was worried about her body. Princess Xinyang said lightly, "I'm hot." "Then just open it for a little while," the servant girl said. Princess Xinyang nodded. The servant girl went around the table and opened the window with a pole. The cold wind blew in with flying snow. Princess Xinyang felt a burst of coolness, and even her dizzy head cleared up a lot. The young maidservant shuddered. "So cold. It's snowing again." Princess Xinyang embroidered for a while in the cold wind. The servant girl didn't dare to let her stay in the cold for too long, so she took the risk of being kicked out and closed the window. Aunt Eugen said that you can't stand in the cold wind. Can't eat cold food, can't. The servant girl lowered her head and said without confidence, Enough, I didn't say I was going to punish you. Princess Xingyang didn't plan to argue with the servant girl, but she had been sitting in the room for 2 hours, so she really couldn't sit still. Give me the cloak. I'll go out for a walk, she said. Ah yes. The servant girl took the cloak, trembling with fear, and put it on Princess Xingyang. Princess Xingyang stood up and walked out of the room with swollen legs to the corridor. The snow in the courtyard had been swept clean, and the ground was covered with a non-slip straw mat. The servant girl held an umbrella for her. Let's go to the flower room, Princess Xingyang said. Yes. The servant girl complied and carefully supported her. The master and servant went to the flower room. This residence was originally quite big, but Princess Xingyang liked to raise flowers, so she used half of the residence as a flower room. Charcoal was burning in the flower room, so the temperature was very high. The servant girl understood that her princess wasn't going to admire the flowers. She wanted to see if the old clothes had dried. When the two arrived at the door of the flower room, they heard whispers coming from inside. What do you think the princess is thinking? Why would she dig out the old clothes from so many years ago? She even wants us to wash and dry them. Be quiet, don't let people hear. If they hear, then they hear. Do you think I'm the only one saying this? Everyone's secretly spreading it. Spreading what? The princess actually has 2 sons. What? Half of these children's clothes are the young duke's, and the other half is the young master's. It's a pity that the child's fate wasn't good, and he died before he was even a month old. Say, it's fine if we wash the young duke's clothes, but why do we wash the child's? Washing the clothes of a dead person during the new year. How unlucky. The news that the young Duke of Zhaodu had returned alive had already spread throughout the capital. As for Xiao Qing's identity, although it hadn't spread outside, the servants who had come in behind closed doors had more or less heard some things while she and Eugen were tidying up the clothes. The servant girl didn't even dare to breathe loudly. She turned her head to look at Princess Xingyang. As expected, the princess's face was ice cold. The 2 servant girls felt the cold gaze behind them and turned their heads back in a daze. When they saw Princess Xingyang, the 2 were so frightened that they fell to their knees with a plop. Princess Xingyang quickly walked over. The servant girl was frightened. Princess, slow down. Princess Xingyang came in front of the 2 and sternly shouted, Get up. You've dirtied my son's clothes. The servant girl who had spoken rudely just now happened to be holding a small piece of clothing that Xiao Qing had worn when he was born. The servant girl trembled as she handed the dirty clothes to Princess Xingyang. Princess Xingyang looked at her son's dirty clothes and didn't know why, but a wave of sadness came from her heart. Princess. Eugen had returned from shopping. She heard that Princess Xingyang had gone to the flower room and hurried over to take a look. She didn't expect to see this scene. She didn't immediately ask the 2 servant girls what they had done. Instead, she directly ordered the servant girl, Take them away first. I'll deal with them later. Yes. The servant girl put away the umbrella in her hand and handed it to Eugen. Eugen took the oil paper umbrella and said softly to Princess Xingyang, who was on the verge of collapse, Princess, Jing Kong has come to see you. Little Jing Kong often came to visit Princess Xingyang after returning to the capital. Eugen had just run into him at the door. Princess Xingyang liked Jing Kong very much. When she heard that he had come, she pulled herself out of her extreme emotions and personally took the dirty clothes back to her room. Little Jing Kong had been studying at the Imperial College for a month and had returned to his previous appearance. After this New Year's Eve, he would be 6 years old. However, he still looked like a 5-year-old. He was really worried. Princess Xingyang had someone cook a bowl of goat's milk for him. She added honey and red beans and it was very delicious. Little Jing Kong gorged himself and drank the milk. He sat on a stool and chatted with Princess Xingyang. Princess, you look good today. You're getting more and more beautiful. Princess Xingyang was amused by him. Really? Of course, and Little Jing Kong looked Princess Xingyang up and down. He opened his mouth and said, You've also become more adorable. Princess Xingyang exposed him. You obviously didn't intend to say that. Ah. Little Jing Kong raised his two small hands and scratched his little head. You also saw through that. Fine, Jiao Jiao told me to say that. Is Jiao Jiao back? Princess Xinyang asked. Little Jing Kong shook his head and said seriously. No, Jiao Jiao said that before. Jiao Jiao said that you can't say that girls are fat. When girls are fat, they're so cute that they become inflated. Puffed. Yujin couldn't help but laugh. If he wanted to say that the princess was fat, then just say it. However, the princess wasn't fat. What did you learn at the Imperial College today? Princess Xinyang didn't continue the topic and changed the topic to his homework. Today I learned the classic of filial piety. Little Jing Kong recited the entire content of the lesson and explained it in his own words. Princess Xinyang nodded. Everything was correct. She touched his little head. You're such a smart child. Little Jing Kong rolled his eyes. Then am I smart or is my brother-in-law smart? Princess Xinyang was amused by him. Both of you are smart. Little Jing Kong furrowed his brows bitterly. Why was his bad brother-in-law and he both smart? His bad brother-in-law always got the last place. In fact, he asked this question because he subconsciously admitted that his bad brother-in-law was very smart. It was just that he didn't realize it. He straightened his little body and said, I'll be the top scorer earlier than my brother-in-law. Little Jing Kong didn't know that he was indeed the top scorer earlier than his bad brother-in-law. But he wasn't the top scorer in literature. Jing Kong, it's time to go archery. Su Kanji's voice came from outside the door. Oh, I forgot to make an appointment with them to go archery. Little Jing Kong jumped down from the stool and politely bowed to Princess Xinyang. Princess, I'll be leaving first. I'll come to see you another day. Okay. Princess Xinyang nodded with a gentle gaze and had Eugene send Little Jing Kong to the carriage. When Eugene returned, Princess Xinyang was tidying up the small clothes that had been dirted by the maidservant. Jing Kong and Aheng are so alike when they were young. So when she saw Jing Kong, it was like seeing Aheng when she was young. Princess Xinyang missed it very much. Eugene smiled. Isn't that so? They're both smart, both like to get first place and both are naughty. When Xiaoheng was young, he wasn't as obedient as he looked. If she didn't let him climb trees, he would climb them secretly. If she didn't let him eat candy, he would go into the kitchen with Long Yi. Occasionally, Princess Xinyang would get angry and beat him. He even knew to call Long Yi to take him away and wait for her anger to subside before returning. Thinking of Xiaoheng's childhood, Princess Xinyang felt it was funny at first. After laughing for a while, her expression became a bit sorrowful. She lowered her head and stroked the small clothes in her hand. She calmly said, Say if Qing was still alive, what would he be like? Would he be as naughty as Aheng? Would he be as smart as Aheng? Was she like Aheng, with so many wicked ideas that she could not hold them all? Would he be like a scholar? Or would he practice martial arts? Would he like to travel all over the place, or would he like to stay at her side? Eugene worriedly looked at her. Princess Xinyang shook her head and endured the pain of losing her son. I'm fine. It's just that I've been thinking of that child recently. Eugene looked at the small clothes in her hand. Seeing an object makes you think of the person. Princess, I'll take the little prince's clothes and put them away. Princess Xinyang did not speak. She looked at the table and said, Little Jing Kong's books were left here. In a moment, find someone to send them to Bai Shui Alley. Okay. Eugene complied. A light knock came from outside the door. I'll go open the door, Eugene said. She went to the door and forcefully pulled it open. Eugene saw a familiar figure. His face was exquisite, and he was as elegant as jade. He had lost some of his youthful youth. Instead, he had gained some maturity, stability, and self-restraint. Eugene was extremely shocked. Young Marquis. Princess. Young Marquis has returned. Aheng? Princess Xinyang rejoiced. Not bothering to put on her cloak, she quickly walked out of the room. In the snow-filled sky, she saw the sun that she thought of every day. Xiaoheng's body was covered in snow. It could be seen that he had been standing at the door for a while. He stepped over the threshold but did not immediately reunite with Princess Xinyang. Instead, he turned around and looked behind him. Come in, brother. Digression. For those little cuties who do not want to keep their monthly votes until the end of the month, they can also vote now. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are also updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that cannot be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896/105237028. HTML Genius will remember this website's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. Chapter 891. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. Half an hour ago, a carriage covered in snow stopped in front of the city gate. Sheng Guanqing opened the curtain and poked his head out. He looked at the towering city tower and asked in surprise, "Is the capital in front?" "Yes." Xiaoheng nodded and opened the curtain a little. He looked at the endless crowd and said, "There are many people coming in and out of the capital in December. It's not so crowded on weekdays." "It's not bad," Sheng Guanqing said. The Zhao Kingdom was a lower country. Although it was not as rich as the Yan Kingdom, the court was stable and the people lived and worked in peace. There were many praises for the court and the emperor. The emperor of the Yan Kingdom was a tyrant. Most of the people's opinions about him were negative. However, he was so powerful that no one dared to resist his tyranny. Xiaoheng smiled. The Zhao Kingdom was not strong enough now, but he believed that one day, the Zhao Kingdom would become a higher country. It required the efforts of many people, or even the efforts of several generations. But as long as they did not give up, there would be hope. "Do you want to rest for a while?" Xiaoheng asked Sheng Guanqing. When Xiaoheng and Gu Jiao went from the Zhao Kingdom to the Yan Kingdom, they took the land route. There were many checkpoints and detours. Because they did not have the privilege of the royal family, many official roads could not be taken. The process was greatly delayed, and it took nearly 2 months to reach Xingdu. This time, they used the identity of the eldest imperial grandson to take the official road dedicated to the court, and change to the water route in the second half of the journey. They were lucky. The water began to freeze when they reached the shore. From early November to early December, they walked for a whole month. "No, I'm not tired," Sheng Guanqing said. He was lying. Even Xiaoheng was tired, let alone a sick person like him. But the two brothers knew that Sheng Guanqing did not have much time left. It was a miracle that he could hold on until now. Every step he took was like stepping on the roof of the King of Hell's palace. He did not know when he would fall. The carriage entered the city. Although Sheng Guanqing was tired, he did not let go of the opportunity to appreciate the capital. "There are so many Tonghulu sellers," he exclaimed. There were very few of them in the Yan Kingdom. It was also very difficult to see a Tonghulu vendor on the street, but there were actually quite a few shops that specialized in selling Tonghulu. Xiaoheng asked the coachman to stop the carriage in front of a Tonghulu store, and bought a bunch of each flavor. "Here." He handed a handful of candied haws to Sheng Guanqing. "Candied haws are from Zhao Kingdom." Sheng Guanqing picked a big and red one. Yan Kingdom didn't have it before. "So you like to eat candied haws because you miss your hometown?" Xiaoheng watched him eat in silence. Sheng Guanqing actually didn't have much of an appetite, so he played with it a few times. "Why don't?" He paused and said, "I'll go later." "What's wrong?" Xiaoheng asked. Sheng Guanqing looked at the candied haws in his hand and stammered. That." Xiaoheng laughed and asked, "Are you nervous?" "No." Sheng Guanqing denied flatly. Xiaoheng smiled and said, "Don't worry. Mom will be very happy to see you." Sheng Guanqing said in a low voice, "I'm not doing that. I don't know how to do that." The last 2 words of each of his sentences were vague and unclear. Xiaoheng could only make out the intonation. But Xiao Heng could still make out the 4 words through the telepathy between them. I'm not the top scorer. I don't know how to study. Such a proud and arrogant brother actually had times when he was not confident. Sure enough, it was true that when you cared too much about someone's opinion, you would become worried about personal gains and losses. Xiao Heng smiled and said, Mother will like you. Shang Guanqing curled his lips. Look at you. I know what kind of son she likes. Xiao Heng raised his eyebrows. Is that why you secretly memorized poems? Shang Guanqing's tiger-like body trembled, and his hair stood on end. When did I recite a poem? Xiao Heng burst into laughter. The 2 of them were really brothers. One of them exercised and strengthened his body behind his wife's back, while the other secretly memorized poems. Stupid sons had to meet their mothers eventually. The carriage arrived at Vermilion Bird Avenue near dusk. Shang Guanqing hesitated and refused to get off the carriage. When he finally got off the carriage, he leaned against the wall and stood in the alley, refusing to go over. Xiao Heng didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Wasn't he quite thick-skinned? Why was he more shy than he was about meeting his mother? The 2 brothers stood in the alley diagonally opposite for a long time. Xiao Heng saw little Jing Kong leave, so Shang Guanqing slowly followed Xiao Heng. That was how the snowflakes on their shoulders came about. At first, Princess Xinyang didn't realize who she was calling, but when Shang Guanqing, who was wearing a white cloak and holding a stick of candied haws, crossed the threshold, Princess Xinyang suddenly stopped in her tracks. The wind around them seemed to have suddenly stopped, and the snowflakes fell in large patches. The whole courtyard was extremely quiet. Her gaze fell on the handsome face that was somewhat similar to Xiao Heng's. Her breathing stopped, and her heart skipped a beat. Calling him brother didn't prove anything. It wasn't like Xiao Heng didn't have a brother. But her heart suddenly began to ache. It hurt so much. Why did her heart hurt so much when she looked at this person? Her eyes couldn't help but heat up, and her throat swelled painfully. Mother, brother is back, Xiao Heng said. Then, in the next second, he also froze. His gaze slid from Princess Xinyang's beautiful face to her bulging belly. Wait. He had only been gone for 9 months. What was going on? Shang Guanqing had long been so nervous that he was stunned. His brain was buzzing, and he couldn't think at all. Xiao Heng guessed right. When it came to meeting his mother, Shang Guanqing was definitely more nervous than Xiao Heng. All the face that he had given up all these years was now used up on Princess Xinyang. So shy. What should I do? Shang Guanqing belatedly realized that he was still holding a candied hawthorn in his hand. He blamed himself for being so nervous that he even forgot to put such a childish thing back in the carriage. What should he do? His mature and aloof image. Yujin was also extremely agitated. Who was this brother that the young duke had brought back? Judging from his age, he was about the same age as the young duke. Could it be no way, right? Wasn't young Master Xiaoqing already dead? Princess. She looked at Princess Xinyang in disbelief. Princess Xinyang was already a bit out of breath. Pregnancy had changed her body. Under the influence of hormones, tears came at will. She wasn't at all like her former aloof self. Xiao Heng pulled his stunned brother to Princess Xinyang and said softly, "Mother, let's talk inside." The mother and son trio entered the room. Yujin was also waiting on the side. Xiao Heng sat in the middle. Princess Xinyang and Shang Guanqing faced each other. Princess Xinyang looked at the child and couldn't stop her hot tears. Shang Guanqing wasn't sad at first, but when he saw her tears, he suddenly felt distressed. The two people's emotions fluctuated too much. Only Xiao Heng could explain what had happened. Xiao Heng started with Shangguan Yan's identity. The female slave of the Yan Kingdom was actually the crown princess of the Yan Kingdom. She was framed and sold to the underground martial arts arena. She was rescued by Marquis Xianping. Princess Xinyang knew what happened after that. But what Princess Xinyang didn't know was that the crown princess of the Yan Kingdom didn't kill Shang Guanqing. She just hid him. When she left, she secretly took Shang Guanqing with her. Shang Guanqing was poisoned. The Chen Kingdom's medical skills were brilliant. She first went to the Chen Kingdom to ask for medicine. The Chen Kingdom's doctor saved Shang Guanqing's life. Unfortunately, the effect was minimal. In order to keep Shang Guanqing alive, She had to take him back to the dragon's pool and tiger's den. After that, there was a series of upheavals in the Xianyuan family. Shang Guanyin was deposed from her position as the crown princess, but the emperor doted on Shang Guanqing very much. He still kept his status as the emperor's eldest grandson, and let the state preceptor hall continue to provide treatment for him. However, as Shang Guanqing slowly grew up, his facial features gradually grew, and he became less and less like Shang Guanyin. Many people began to criticize Shang Guanyin, using Shang Guanqing's identity as an issue. They wrote memorials to impeach her for mixing up the royal bloodline. In desperation, Shang Guanyin had to secretly send people to the Zhao country to secretly draw a portrait of Xiao Heng, and let Shang Guanqing disguise himself as Xiao Heng. And it was this move that exposed the existence of Xiao Heng to the crown prince's party. In order to save Xinyang's flesh and blood, Shang Guanyin exposed her own flesh and blood. Shang Guanyan's action of snatching the antidote that belonged to Shang Guanqing was hateful, but her heart to use the rest of her life to make up for it was not fake. Over the years, she treated Shang Guanqing as her own son, not only to make up for it. The mother-son relationship between them was real. Of course, Xiao Heng did not add his own opinion when he narrated the story. He only objectively stated all the facts. No one could forgive Shang Guanyin for Princess Xianyang, and no one could bear the pain of losing a son for her. Whether it was hatred, forgiveness, or something else, Princess Xianyang should have her own opinion. Shang Guanqing nervously looked at Princess Xianyang, as if waiting for her judgment. Hearing this, Princess Xianyang's mood calmed down. She looked at Shang Guanqing and bitterly said, "Actually, at that time, even if she did not snatch the antidote, you would not have survived. The previous emperor was on guard against your father. Marrying him was just a political bargaining chip. My dragon shadow guards were waiting to kill him at any time, and in order to prevent me from being soft-hearted, the dragon shadow guards would kill our child. If they did not succeed the first time, they would come a second time, until I completely lost you. I have also hurt Ahing deeply. Both of you are innocent. If I really want to blame someone, the first person I should blame is my father emperor. Second, blame me for being born into the imperial family. Finally, blame me as your mother, for not protecting you well. Not you but you too." Towards her two sons, she was filled with a deep sense of guilt. After she learned the false truth that Shang Guanyin was the one who killed her son, did she not vent her anger on the innocent Xiao Heng? What right did she have to blame Shang Guanyin? Xiao Heng gently held her hand. The matter of the young duke dying in the fire on New Year's Eve had already passed. The knot in his heart had been untied. He was not a child abandoned by his mother. At the last moment, his mother used her life to protect him. Princess Xianyang choked with sobs and laughed. "I am very grateful to her for raising you. If it were not for her, I might have already lost you." Shang Guanqing's entire body relaxed a lot. He smiled and said, "Lady Mother also said that she was very grateful to you for raising little brother. Because if the real imperial grandson returned to Yan country, it would be very difficult for him to grow up safely. Fate was a very mysterious thing, but doing good deeds was not good for the future." "Lady Mother?" Princess Xianyang was slightly stunned. Shang Guanqing awkwardly rubbed his nose. "That is my mother." Princess Xianyang appreciated this form of address. She could feel that Shang Guanyin and Qing, Er's mother and son relationship was very harmonious and natural. Xiao Heng said, "Since it's like this, let's not talk about the past." Princess Xianyang nodded. Shang Guanqing also did not object. Princess Xianyang looked at her lost and recovered son. She could not believe it was true. "Ahing, pinch me." Xiao Heng found it funny and said, "It would be better if you pinched me. How could I bear to let you feel pain?" Then Princess Xianyang really went to pinch him. Xiao Heng's pain made an emoji appear. "Mother, you've changed. You were not able to do it before." "Sure enough, I've fallen out of favor." Princess Xianyang awkwardly rubbed her son's red leg. Qing, Er's return was too unbelievable. She was immersed in great joy and was truly at a loss for what to do. Shang Guanqing looked on dumbfoundedly. He felt that Princess Xianyang did not seem so difficult to get close to. It's all because of his stinky younger brother. He always said that his mother was as cold as a fairy and did not eat the food of mortals. He was very worried that he would be disliked. He had thought too much. This mother was quite down to earth. But mother, what is this situation with you? Xiao Heng looked at her belly, which was about to hit the table. Is it my father's? When this was mentioned, Princess Xianyang became angry. She had clearly drunk the contraceptive soup. How could she still be pregnant? What was hateful was that she only reacted after 3 months. If she had known earlier, she would have drunk a few more bowls of contraceptive soup. She did not know if it was because it sensed its mother's dislike, but the little guy in her belly pitifully flipped over and kicked a few times, leaving its own footprints on its mother's belly. Princess Xianyang held her belly and sucked in a breath of cold air. This child really was noisy. Qing, or was very well behaved in her belly. Xiao Heng nodded seriously. It seems that it is my father's. Aside from my father, I can't think of any other man that can make you grit your teeth like this. Digression. Little Bao Bao extended his little jib. Gio, come, let's give each other a hand clap. The newest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that you can't find online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1052163320. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 892. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online here. Is it going to be due soon? Xiao Heng asked. Princess Xinyang looked down at her belly and sighed. It should have been due long ago, but it just won't come out. The delivery date was 10 days later than the mammy's calculation. Every day, the doctor would come to check her pulse, which was normal. Xiao Heng roughly understood why his great-aunt didn't mention his brother to his mother. It was not easy for his mother to have this baby. If she rushed over to find Sheng Guanqing, the journey would be bumpy, and both the baby and the baby might die. People always needed a long time to digest bad news, but they could adapt to good news very quickly. To Xiao Heng and Sheng Guanqing, this little brother or little sister that was about to be born was one. To Princess Xinyang, this son that she had lost and regained was also one. Xiao Heng knew that the two had a lot to talk about, so he stood up and said to Yujin, Aunt Yujin, there is still some luggage in the carriage. Yujin understood and said with a smile, Okay, I'll ask someone to move it. I'll go too. Xiao Heng and Yujin walked out together. The door of the room was open, and the feather-like snow was falling. The entire courtyard became white. Princess Xinyang was not used to being too close to men, but Sheng Guanqing was her own flesh and blood. He was someone she wanted to be close to even if she had to overcome her psychological barrier. When Xiao Heng was in the room, she restrained herself from showing too much affection. Otherwise, if Xiao Heng felt that she favored one and discriminated against the other, she wouldn't be happy. In fact, she was confused because she cared too much. Sheng Guanqing had suffered too much. Xiao Heng felt that it was right for anyone to dote on him. Princess Xinyang looked at Sheng Guanqing, hesitated and said, Mother, can I sit here? She was referring to the seat Xiao Heng had just sat. It was closer to Sheng Guanqing. Okay. Sheng Guanqing agreed blankly. Seeing that she couldn't move, he quickly reacted. Let me sit here. Princess Xinyang broke into a smile. Princess Xinyang was a beauty who had been treated well by the passage of time. The crown princess's beauty was aggressive and bright, while Princess Xinyang was more like a green lotus on top of the heavenly mountain. Elegant, calm, and graceful. On a whim, Sheng Guanqing decided to find a wife like his mother in the future. However, it seemed that there was no chance. Princess Xinyang stared at her son. She couldn't get enough of him. She had a lot of things she wanted to say to her son, but she didn't know where to start. He was not the only one who was nervous. He was worried that Princess Xinyang wouldn't like a son like him. Princess Xinyang was also worried that he wouldn't like her, a mother who had never raised him for even a day. The Duke of Xinyang opened his mouth and tried to find a topic to talk about. Right, why didn't Jiao Jiao come back with you? Sheng Guanqing said. Jin's state is still at war, so she can't come back for the time being. But don't worry, the most dangerous period has passed. Victory is within the grasp of the imperial court's army. Nothing will happen to her. Moreover, ever since the Gu army arrived, that Gu Chongqing didn't let the little girl go to the front lines anymore. She was mainly responsible for guarding Chuyang City and treating the wounded soldiers. Of course, this was also a very difficult task. After all, human lives were more important than anything. Every life was precious. Princess Xinyang relaxed a little. Then did you run into Long Yi? Sheng Guanqing said. I didn't run into him. Aheng said that he left after sending Aheng back to Yan country from the border. It seemed that Long Yi and Aheng had met. That was true. After being together for so many years, the one Long Yi couldn't let go of the most was Aheng. Before he went to find his answer, he would definitely say goodbye to Aheng. However, she had thought that Long Yi's answer was in Yan country. Now it seemed that there was another place. Sheng Guanqing didn't know much about Long Yi. He only knew that he was the princess hidden guard. He watched Xiaoheng grow up and seemed to have some background. Now he was going to find his past. Princess Xinyang asked again. Are you married? This was a topic that all parents in the world couldn't avoid. That's not right, you asked everyone. Why didn't you ask my father? Sheng Guanqing said truthfully. I am not married. Princess Xinyang thought about how he had been poisoned all these years. Presumably, he was not in the mood to get married. She did not continue this topic and asked, Has your poison been cured? This was the most important thing. Earlier, she had only been focused on her son, and had forgotten the most important thing. It has been cured, Sheng Guanqing said with a smile. Princess Xinyang asked doubtfully. When was it cured? Wasn't there nothing that the Imperial Preceptor Hall could do? It had to be said that a mother's intuition was very strong. Sheng Guanqing had anticipated that she would have such doubts and said according to the script he had prepared. There is a type of purple grass. Its roots can be refined into a very powerful poison. Out of 100 people, only one person can survive. For people like me who don't know martial arts, the chances of survival are even lower. But as long as one can endure, all pain and poison can be cured without any medicine. Hearing that this method was so powerful, Princess Xinyang's heart jumped. This type of purple grass is very rare. Fortunately, the Han family of Yan country planted a purple grass garden at the border. After the imperial army took over the Han family, their purple grass garden was confiscated. I thought that since I was going to die anyway, I might as well try it. I almost didn't make it back alive to see you. As he spoke, he grabbed Princess Xinyang's wrist, feeling wronged. The purple grass poison is very powerful. I was in so much pain those days. When there were more details in a matter, it could be more convincing. Truth and lies, truth and falsehood. Coupled with his coquettish behavior, it was easy to believe. Her son's sudden closeness made Princess Xinyang so happy that her mind went blank. Have you ever thought about what if mother doesn't believe you? She's not that easy to fool. She's very smart. I have my ways. It seemed that he had achieved his goal. His mother was immersed in the joy of getting along with her son, and lost her judgment and suspicion. But in fact, even he himself couldn't tell if he was getting close to his mother to achieve his goal, or if he had always wanted to be close to her. Princess Xinyang raised her other hand and gripped her son's hand tightly. She had finally calmed down, but her heart ached at his misfortune. You've suffered, she choked out. In the future, mother won't let you suffer anymore. He nodded and gently pressed his cheek against the back of Princess Xinyang's hand. Mother still loves me the most. She's much better than stinky younger brother. Stinky younger brother only knows how to make me angry. Princess Xinyang's tears immediately began to flow. After night fell, Mother and son ate dinner in the side hall. Princess Xinyang smiled and looked at Shang Guanqing, saying, Ahing said that you don't eat fennel, so I told the chefs not to use any spices. Have a taste and see if it suits your taste. Shang Guanqing had lost all appetite for food long ago. These days he had been forcing himself to eat. Otherwise he would have the accompanying medical officer give him some fluids. But seeing the table full of delicious dishes, he still moved his chopsticks and tasted each dish. Is it delicious? Princess Xinyang asked with a smile, pretending not to see him forcefully swallow. Delicious, Shang Guanqing said. It suits my taste better than Yan country's food. Princess Xinyang gently smiled. Even if it's delicious, you can't eat too much. It's late at night. If you eat too much, it's easy to get indigestion. Shang Guanqing's chopsticks paused, and the tip of his nose became sour. Something welled up in his heart, but his expression did not change. He snorted and said, All right, if I eat a little, then I'll eat a little. He had long since lost his appetite. Every mouthful was torture. Xiaoheng looked at him, then looked at Princess Xinyang. He then said to Shang Guanqing, You just ate so much tonghulu. Do you still have a stomach? Don't stuff yourself to death. Princess Xinyang quickly said, Why didn't you say that you ate tonghulu earlier? Then quickly stop eating. Oh. Shang Guanqing looked deeply at her, then lowered his gaze and put down his chopsticks. Xiaoheng said, Elder brother, still needs to return to Yan country. Princess Xinyang clenched her fists under her wide sleeves. She used a great deal of effort to resist the urge to cry. She looked at the two brothers and was slightly surprised. Is that so? Qing'er will not remain in Zhao country? Xiaoheng sighed and continued to act with the two. Elder brother and I have already discussed it. There is no need to change our identities. Princess Xinyang's swollen and painful throat moved a bit. She smiled and said, When will you leave? Xiaoheng said, There is a war at the border, and the emperor of Yan country has just passed away. There is no one in the court to take charge of the situation. Elder brother has to go back as soon as possible. Perhaps in the next 2 days? Princess Xinyang's right hand held the vegetables, and the nails of her left hand dug deeply into her palm. She looked at Shang Guanqing reluctantly, her eyes unconsciously turning red. Then will you still come back to see mother? Shang Guanqing smiled and said, Of course I will, right younger brother? Xiaoheng, yes. I will dress up as you and come back to see mother. Princess Xinyang's tears fell with a pitter-patter. Shang Guanqing looked at her with forbearance, wanting to say something but hesitating. Princess Xinyang wiped her tears and said with red and swollen eyes, I didn't expect you to leave so soon after coming back. Mother will pack your things. Yujin. Yes. Yujin opened the curtain and entered, helping Princess Xinyang up from the chair. Princess Xinyang left the side hall and walked through a long corridor. After turning the corner, she finally couldn't hold it in anymore. In the wind and snow, she covered her face with both hands, trembling all over, and cried. Inside the room, Xiaoheng looked helplessly at Shang Guanqing. Mother saw through it. Shang Guanqing whispered, I know. Xiaoheng asked, Then do you still want to leave? Shang Guanqing's expression was very calm. Every step that he took was not a last-minute decision, but a decision that he had made from the beginning. I cannot die in front of her. I hope that she will remember me. The way I am when I am alive. A living son. Not a corpse in her arms that can no longer be awakened. That will be a nightmare she will never be able to get rid of. Digression. Little Bao Bao. Dad, if you don't hurry up, little Guogua will be gone. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1052159131. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. Chapter 893. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all available here. In November, it snowed heavily for 3 days at the border. The people's doors were frozen, and the streets were also frozen. It was impossible to go out. The soldiers of Black Wind Camp were sent out to clear the snow and remove the ice. Ching, and Ahing's luck is pretty good. It snowed just after they left. If they were delayed for one more day, they might not be able to leave the city. Pu City was also snowing heavily. Shangguanyan stood outside the tent, looking in the direction of the official road, and muttering to herself. Huanair put a thick cloak on her and said, "It's still dark. Your Highness, why don't you go back and sleep for a while?" Shangguanyan gathered the cloak and shook her head. "No, I can't sleep." Huanair tied a ribbon for her and comforted her. "Heaven helps the 2 little Highnesses. They will be fine." Shangguanyan nodded. "I hope so." Huanair, as a confidant, already knew the ins and outs of these people. She sighed and said, "Marquis has been gone for almost 20 days. I don't know if he got the antidote for the little Highnesses." Half a month ago, Marquis Xianping and Changjing went all the way north along the Heavenly Mountain Pass and arrived at the northern border of the Yan Kingdom. After passing through the iron fence in front of them, they were no longer in the territory of the Yan Kingdom. "Let's stop the horses here," Changjing said. After crossing the mountains at the end of the valley is the ice field. Ordinary horses can't walk on the ice, and there is no food for them. Of course, if they are used as food, they can still be brought along. Marquis Xianping looked at the fat and strong Black Wind Cavalry. He thought that if he killed the Black Wind Cavalry and ate it, his daughter-in-law would kill him. The 3 people gave the horses to the soldiers at the border. Under the leadership of Changjing, they passed through the valley, crossed the mountains, and arrived at the endless ice field. Yiqing grew up in Chengdu and had never seen such a vast ice field. For a moment, he felt as small as a grain of sand. Marquis Xianping also came to the ice field in the extreme north for the first time. He couldn't help but slightly look at Changjing and asked, "You mean we have to walk?" "Of course not," Changjing coldly said. Marquis Xianping looked at a certain person in amusement. "You're still standing up in front of me." Changjing didn't say anything. She turned around and left. Yiqing asked, "Is he angry?" "I won't," Marquis Xianping said lightly. Changjing didn't know where he went. He only returned after about an hour, and he didn't come back alone. Instead, he sat in a very strange. Yiqing frowned. "Oh, what is this? And the one pulling the carriage seems to be a wolf?" Changjing stopped the snowmobile, jumped down, and said to the 2, "They are direwolves specially used to pull snowmobiles." Yiqing was surprised. "This is the first time I have seen a car without wheels." If Gu Jiao were here, she would definitely recognize that this snowmobile was similar to the sleigh she had in her previous life. It was not exactly the same, but the bottom was waxed, making it very easy to slide on the snow and ice. Changjing said, "This is a snowmobile hidden by our Dark Knight Island. Rumor has it that the Dark Knight Island and the 6 nations didn't have any dealings. That was only in the political sense. In reality, the people on the island also needed to go out to purchase supplies and do some other things. The 3 got on the snowmobile pulled by 20 direwolves." Changjing stood at the front, Marquis Xianping sat in the middle, and Yiqing sat at the back. Changjing pulled the reins. "Sit tight, we're going." Yiqing calmly replied, "Oh." The next second, he was blown out of the sad frog expression pack by the whistling cold wind. The speed of the snowmobile was too fast. The person was already far away, but the soul was still frozen in place. Even Marquis Xianping felt that this thing was too exciting. F***K. It was even more exciting than being carried by Long Yi. Changjing had played since childhood, so his expression was very calm. He drove the snowmobile and perfectly matched the speed of the direwolves. He didn't forget to remind the 2. "Close your eyes. If you look at the snow for too long, you will easily get snow blindness." Yiqing was already dying. "Are you sure it's a snowmobile and not a flying one?" I'm afraid I won't be able to make it back alive. In order to pass through the ice field before the blizzard arrived, Changjing practically didn't rest. But direwolves needed to rest, so whenever they needed to recover their health, Changjing and Yi Qing would go hunting nearby. At night, they slept in a temporary tent. The temperature in the ice field was very cold, but since they were all martial artists, their physique was different from normal people, so they were able to withstand it. These days lasted for an entire 7 days. When night fell on the 7th day, they saw an island standing on a layer of light blue ice. It's already frozen perfect, Changjing said to Marquis Xianping and Yi Qing. Otherwise, we'd have to swim. Yi Qing's mouth twitched. No boats, Changjing said. In order to prevent people from traveling during the cold winter, after entering October, all the nearby boats were withdrawn. The group of people sat on the snowmobile and slid across the thick ice layer. The ice layer seemed to have just formed, as there were some places that weren't thick enough. When the snowmobile passed by, it immediately cracked open. Marquis Xianping remembered that there seemed to be a lot of lakes on the way here. He didn't know if they were all frozen on the way back. If so, then he didn't need to go around, which could save a lot of time. When the snowmobile stopped near the island, more than a dozen guards on the island cautiously rushed out, drawing their bows and aiming at them. The leader shouted, "Who dares to trespass on the Dark Night Island?" Yi Qing felt a strong pressure. These people were definitely not ordinary guards, as each of their aura was unbelievably strong. Changjing took off her hat, looked up at the other side and said, "Uncle Ling, it's me." "Little Jing?" The middle-aged man called Uncle Ling was shocked. He put away his bow and looked deeply at Changjing. "Aya, it really is Little Jing. Little Jing, you're finally back. You've been gone for so many years, the sect master is worried sick. I'll let someone inform your father. He will be very happy to know you're back." Changjing looked down and sighed. Uncle Ling's movements were fast, but the sect master of the Dark Night Gate, Chang Kuan's speed was even faster. When Changjing and the other two just got on the island, Chang Kuan was like a flying dragon in the sky, majestically arriving. Changjing was Chang Kuan's old son. Chang Kuan was older than the old chancellor, but he was strong. Although he had white hair, he was hale and hearty. His internal force was unfathomable. He landed steadily in front of Changjing, looked at the young boy who was almost 18 years old, and clenched his fists fiercely. Yi Qing whispered to Marquis Xianping. Changjing ran away from home and didn't come back for 3 years. Will his father break his legs? His father looks very angry. Of course Chang Kuan was angry. His murderous aura was enough to destroy the world. Just when Yi Qing thought Changjing was going to be slapped away by his father, Chang Kuan hugged his son into his arms. "Father's little darling. You're finally back. Where have you been these years? Father has been looking for you so hard. Father thought he would never see you again." Chang Kuan burst into tears. Yi Qing. The father and son reunion drama wasn't over yet. 7 women who were as light as swallows flew over from the island. These people all had excellent qinggong. The oldest was around 40, and the youngest was around 24 or 25. Their faces were all very delicate and pretty. The 7 people swarmed around the father and son, took out their handkerchiefs and cried. "Little brother, where have you been all these years? Big sister missed you so much. Second sister also missed you so much. Third sister went to your room every day to clean but didn't see you come back. Little brother, look, fourth sister is so hungry." Fourth sister cried and burped, then continued. Yi Qing's mouth twitched again. These 7 women were all Changjing's sisters? After Changjing was hugged by his father, he was also hugged by his 7 sisters. The sisters' crying skills were much better than his father's. Like a soulless puppet, he was hugged by his sisters. Changjing's mother passed away not long after giving birth to him. Although he didn't have a mother, the 7 sisters together were not to be trifled with. "Tell big sister, who took you away? You couldn't come back to see us for so many years." Big sister's reaction was the fastest. She didn't believe that her little brother had been wandering outside alone for 3 years. Marquis Xianping's heart thumped. No way. She could guess this? Changjing turned around and looked at Marquis Xianping. The seven sisters and his father all looked at Marquis Xianping. Marquis Xianping sighed without changing his expression. The fairies guessed correctly. Changjing was indeed taken away. It was I who saved him halfway. I was worried that those people would come looking for him again, so I personally sent him home. Yi Qing was stunned. In terms of shamelessness, you're number one in the world. Changjing raised his eyebrows and curled his lips. Marquis Xianping, a box of marbles. Changjing, no, I want 2 boxes. 1 box of enamel, 1 box of glass. Marquis Xianping, that's the most expensive. And don't you already have a box of glass marbles? Just bought it. Changjing said to Changquan. Father. Marquis Xianping painfully clenched his fist. His heart was bleeding, but there was a slight smile on his face. Deal. Yes, that's it. Changjing said to his father and sisters. Changquan flew into a rage. Who dares to kidnap my son? Changjing looked at Marquis Xianping and raised his eyebrows. 5 boxes of marbles, I said it was the sword hut. Marquis Xianping, who never thought that one day he would be blackmailed by little Changjing. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964226/1051971006. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Biku Pavilion mobile reading website. Chapter 894. The latest chapter of the book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all here. Changjing, who extorted 7 boxes of marbles in one breath, finally felt proud. There were no marbles on the island. At first there were, but when Changjing was 3 years old, he accidentally swallowed a marble and almost died. Changquan and Changjing's 7 sisters never allowed him to touch this dangerous thing again. Even when Changjing grew up, the psychological shadow of these people still didn't disappear. Changquan angrily said, "Those bastards of the sword hut, I've long disliked them. Now they actually dare to bully my son. When the ice and snow melts, see how I deal with them." Changjing said to his father, "I'm hungry." Changquan put away his anger and said with a smile, Okay, let's go home and eat." As he spoke, he made an inviting gesture to Xianpingho and Yi Qing. "2 distinguished guests, this way please." The person who saved his son was the benefactor of the Dark Knight sect. He would treat them well. The group of people followed the old sect master back to the Dark Knight sect. The residents on the island were not all disciples of the sect. There were also former fishermen and partners who were married outside. Changquan was both the sect master and the island master. As the only son, Changjing should inherit his mantle in the future. Changjing didn't want to be the island master at all. He looked at the 7 sisters around him. How come he had been gone for 3 years, and none of them became the young island master? Xianpingho and Yi Qing lived in Changjing's courtyard. The servants went to clean up the house and the kitchen prepared dinner. Changquan and Xianpingho chatted in the flower pavilion. Yi Qing asked if he could walk around. Changquan told him to do as he pleased and to treat this place as his own home. Changjing was called by the 7 sisters to compete. Yi Qing heard the movement in the courtyard and curiously went to watch the battle. He had heard that Changjing was good at martial arts, but he had never really seen him fight. "Brother, I'll use a sword to compete with you." Changjing sighed. "Okay." The 2 siblings began to exchange blows in the spacious courtyard. Changjing's moves were infused with Marquis Xianping's fierce and domineering aura. Compared to 3 years ago, her strength was much stronger. 7th sister's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. After 10 moves, her treasured saber was sent flying by the long sword. "Sister 6 is here to challenge you." 6th sister's weapon of choice was a long sword. After exchanging about 15 moves with Changjing, She was also defeated by Changjing. The other sisters also exchanged blows with Changjing one after another. The sparring between siblings was not so murderous. If the weapon left the hand, it would be considered a defeat. Changjing won 7 matches in a row. The eldest sister patted her brother's shoulder in satisfaction. That's right. It seems that you haven't neglected your martial arts in the past 3 years. Alright, you're all sweaty. Hurry back to your room and change your clothes. Oh. Changjing sheathed her sword and obediently returned to her room. As soon as he left, the sisters let out a long sigh of relief. Sister 7 said, I gave him 2 moves just now. Sister 6 said, I gave him 3 moves. Sister 5 said, I only used 30% of my strength, but he also only used 50%. Sister 4 said, Brother still has some improvement. Before leaving the island, even if I gave him a chance, he still couldn't take 1 move. Today he took 5 moves. Listening to the conversation between Changjing and the other sisters, Yiqing felt like he was about to start doubting his life. Changjing is already very good at fighting, yet you guys are even better than her. What kind of weirdos are you guys on this island? Yiqing didn't come out aimlessly for a stroll. He brought a mission. Xianping He was in charge of making friends with the old sect master, while he was in charge of finding the purple grass. Although the purple grass was only a weed in the back mountain, if they said they were here for it, then wouldn't it be exposed? But where is the back mountain? Just when Yiqing was thinking about whether or not to ask someone, Changjing's sisters came over. The eldest sister, Changying, cupped her hands and said, Hero Yi. The others also cupped their hands and greeted him. Jianghu's sons and daughters were all the same as men. Yiqing cupped his hands and greeted back. Mississippi Changying, as the eldest daughter, was looking for a son-in-law, but the servants still called her Mississippi. Her sisters were looking for a son-in-law, and some were getting married, but as long as they were in the sect, they were still called Mississippi. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. Naturally, he didn't nitpick whether or not the title was reasonable. Changying said, Is Hero Yi bored staying in the house? Do you want to spar with us? Yiqing dryly laughed and thought to himself, Forget it. If I spar with you guys, I'm afraid the sword has no eyes. He politely said, I don't dare to embarrass myself in front of you ladies. I'm just casually strolling. Let's go sit in the pavilion. Changying said, Sister, go make a pot of flower tea. My sister's tea-making skills are superb. Yiqing and the Chang family's daughters came to the pavilion. There were very few female disciples in the state teacher's palace, and those who could get close to him were even rarer. To be honest, it was his first time interacting with so many women. Fortunately, the several daughters were valiant and didn't care about trifles. They could make people temporarily forget the difference in status. There were only 4 stone stools beside the table. The 4th to 7th stood. The second sister Changling quickly made the flower tea. She sat down beside the eldest sister and poured a cup of tea for Yiqing. Yiqing picked up the teacup and gently took a sip. Changying said, Hero Yi, my 7th sister is still unmarried. What do you think of my 7th sister? Cough. Yiqing choked. This direct? Isn't this topic a bit too sudden? 7th Miss Changyu said, Big sister, I don't like him like this. Changying asked, What do you like? Like Hero Xiao? Hero Xiao already has a wife. Yiqing hurriedly said. Changyu curled her lips. Then I don't care. Yiqing didn't expect that coming out for a breath of fresh air would turn into a large-scale blind date. He was so embarrassed that he could use his toes to dig out a state teacher's palace. Changying stared at her 7th sister. You're just too picky. That's why you're still unmarried at 25. Changyu humphed. I don't want to marry anyways. Yiqing dryly laughed, drank tea. Fortunately, Changying didn't continue this topic. She looked at Yiqing and said, Hero Yi, is this tea good? Yiqing paused and said, The taste is quite novel. I've never had this kind of flower tea before. May I ask what flower is used? 7th Miss Changyu was unhappy about being urged to get married. She immediately sold out her second sister. In fact, it's just a wild flower in the back mountain. Second sister specifically used it to fool the outsiders. Second sister Changling's hair stood up and wanted to beat her. Eldest sister Changying frowned. Second sister, you're messing around again. How can you use a wildflower to entertain Hero Yi? Hero Yi is Hero Xiao's friend. Hero Xiao is my brother's savior. The two of them are my dark night sex guests. Changling wasn't young anymore, but her cute habit of teasing people didn't change at all. She curled her lips and unwillingly said, "Oh, I made a mistake. I didn't sincerely use a wildflower to fool the guests." Seventh Miss Changyu quietly sneered, twisting words and forcing logic. Yi Qing's eyes lit up when he heard about the back mountain. He hurriedly said, No. This flower tea tastes very good. I don't know what kind of wildflower it is. Can I take a look? When they reach the back mountain, they'll be able to see the purple grass, right? When the time comes, they'll pick up a few. Second sister, why aren't you going to pick it? Changying wanted to punish her. She didn't order the youngest Changyu, but instead let her go personally. Changling went with a black face. Not long after, she came back with a basket full of flowers. Looking at the flowers and plants in the basket, Yi Qing's eyes were straight. Aren't these the purple grass they've been searching for? The difference is these purple grass actually bloomed. Purple grass can bloom? Never heard of it. What's wrong, Hero Yi? Changying caught his strange look. Yi Qing came back to his senses and suddenly realized that what he just drank was tea made from purple grass. Then he wouldn't be poisoned, right? Yi Qing calmed down, carefully considered his words, and said, "To be honest, I've seen this kind of purple grass in a book. Its roots are highly toxic, but it doesn't bloom." Changling once again exploded. "What do you mean? You're suspecting me of poisoning you?" The third sister opened her mouth. "It's just diarrhea. How can you say it's highly toxic? That's a bit too much information. So you guys ate the roots of the purple grass, but the result was diarrhea?" Changying thought for a bit and said, "If the roots of this kind of grass are accidentally eaten, it's indeed easy to be mildly poisoned." "Just diarrhea and poison, bam bam bam." Changying ridiculed in her heart, but on the surface she said, "But you'll be fine after eating some of its fruits." Yi Qing was startled again. Not only does it bloom, it also bears fruit. As if seeing Yi Qing's doubts, Changying explained, "This grass blooms in the cold winter and bears fruit when it's coldest. If it's not cold enough, then it's just a grass all year round." With that said, Yi Qing understood. The purple grass likes the cold, and cold places are best for it to grow. And because the temperature in other places of the 6 countries is not cold enough, it can't bloom and bear fruit. And listening to Changying's words, the roots are poisonous, but its fruit can detoxify. Yi Qing looked at the 7 daughters of the Chang family in disbelief. "The roots of this purple grass are highly toxic. Even experts will die if they eat it, but you guys are only mildly poisoned." Changying murmured, "Will I die? I don't know if I've died before." "Yi Qing," Changying thoughtfully said, "maybe it's because we ate a lot of its fruits." Changyu nodded. The fruits of the purple grass are very delicious. Then can you guys give me some of the purple grass?" Yi Qing didn't even have time to ask this sentence before his eyes rolled over, and he fell to the ground with a thump. The 7th Miss Changyu asked, "Huh? Big sister, what's wrong with him?" Changying took a deep breath, suppressed her anger, and looked at the second Miss Changling. "Second sister, how many times have I said, the wild flowers and weeds in the back mountain are not clean? You need to wash it a few more times." Yi Qing was lying on the ground, vomiting black blood. "Is this a matter of washing it a few more times? It's basically poison. You guys aren't even afraid of the purple grass poison. What kind of perverts are you guys? I've already washed it clean." The second Miss Chang felt wronged. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more interesting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are also updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_8964286/10519547. HTML Genius memorized this site's URL. www ZHHBQG. Kombikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 895. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all available here. Steaming hot food was quickly placed on the table. Chang Kuan called Marquis Xianping to the side hall to sit. Also waiting in the side hall were Chang Kuan's 6 sons-in-law. He introduced them to Marquis Xianping one by one. They all knew that this was Chang Jing's savior, so they treated Marquis Xianping very politely. Marquis Xianping looked at this full family and was a little unsure of what to say. Great hero Xiao, please sit. Chang Kuan said. Marquis Xianping sat to Chang Kuan's left. The daughters did not eat at the same table as men, so Chang Kuan's sons-in-law began to take their seats. To Marquis Xianping's side was Yi Qing's seat. They very considerately left it empty, and the seat to Chang Kuan's left was also empty. Marquis Xianping thought a little, and should have left it for Chang Jing. It seemed that Chang Jing's position on the island was not low. After leaving for 3 years, he was still treated as the young master of the island. Not long later, Chang Jing came over. He had taken a bath and changed into dry clothes. His hairstyle had also changed. It was no longer tied into a single bun. Instead, he had braided his hair like the men on the island. The 7 older sisters had braided it. After 3 years, they could finally braid their younger brother's hair again. The 7 older sisters were very happy. My wife has never braided my hair before. The 6 brothers-in-law expressed their jealousy. Marquis Xianping looked at Chang Jing, and suddenly had the feeling that his son had grown up. Of course, Chang Jing was not his son, but Chang Jing had appeared during the darkest days when he had lost Aheng. To say that Chang Jing was Aheng's substitute was not enough, but Chang Jing had indeed accompanied him through a very difficult time. Chang Jing greeted his father and brothers-in-law one by one, then sat down next to Marquis Xianping. The way you look at me is very strange. Marquis Xianping calmly retracted his gaze and asked in a normal tone. Where is Yi Qing? He was poisoned, Chang Jing said. How was he poisoned? Marquis Xianping asked. Seeing Chang Jing's appearance, he was not worried that he had been poisoned. Chang Jing sighed and said, It's all because you outer islanders are so delicate. You can get poisoned just by drinking 2 mouthfuls of flower tea. I've been drinking it since I was young and I'm fine. Marquis Xianping. The food on the island was mainly fish. Chang Kuan was worried that Marquis Xianping would not be used to it, so he specially invited a chef from another island to make a few side dishes. Marquis Xianping was not a picky eater. He had eaten the corpses of horses and grass during the war. He was satisfied to be able to eat a hot meal. Chang Kuan smiled and said, By the way, Hero Xiao, there will be a martial arts competition on our island in a few days. Would you like to come and watch? Marquis Xianping smiled and said, I would like to stay, but there are urgent matters at home. I have to go back as soon as possible. Chang Jing's brother-in-law, who was beside her, said in surprise, What? You want to leave the island in this weather? It was almost November. It's very likely that there's already a snowstorm on the ice field. Chang Kuan said earnestly, That's right, Hero Xiao. You haven't been to the island, so you might not know the terrible weather on the ice field. Even I don't dare to enter the ice field at this time. Chang Jing lowered her head and ate without saying a word. Do you think you can persuade him? His son wanted the antidote. Even if he had to die, he would die on the way to deliver the medicine. Chang Jing poked a piece of fish with her chopsticks. Her movement was so big that the plate broke into 2 halves. Chang Kuan smiled and said, You see, little Jing is angry. He wants you to stay. Marquis Xianping glanced at Chang Jing and sighed. I appreciate your good intentions. If there's a chance in the future, I'll definitely visit the island again. Since he had said so, Chang Kuan and his sons-in-law didn't persuade him anymore. When do you leave? Chang Kuan asked. I'll ask someone to prepare things for you on the way. If it were any other season, Chang Kuan would definitely ask someone to send Marquis Xianping across the ice field. But the ice field in winter was too dangerous. He couldn't let his clansmen take the risk. In fact, there was no point in taking the risk, because they would definitely die on the ice field. Chang Kuan regretted. Marquis Xianping said. Tomorrow morning. After dinner, Marquis Xianping returned to his room. It took them 2 days to leave the border of the Great Yan from Cuyang City, and 7 days to walk on the ice field. They didn't have a good rest. Marquis Xianping's body was covered with new and old injuries. He was very tired. Tonight, he had to conserve his energy to deal with the upcoming snowstorm. Knock, knock, knock. There was a knock on the door. Marquis Xianping had just untied his belt and was about to take a hot bath. Hearing the sound, he said, "Come in." The door was pushed open and Chang Jing walked in slowly. He was holding a small wooden box in his hand. He handed the small wooden box to Marquis Xianping and said indifferently, "Here, the weeds you wanted have been dug up. There are also flowers and fruits. If you accidentally eat the weeds, you'll be fine after eating 2 fruits." Everything in the world had a counter to each other. The reason why there was no antidote for the purple grass poison was that its only antidote was its own fruit. Can this fruit cure other poisons? Marquis Xianping asked. If it could, then wouldn't Qing or not have to take such a big risk to eat the purple grass poison? Chang Jing said, "I don't know. I haven't tried it. No one on the island has been poisoned." Marquis Xianping thought of the fallen Yi Qing. "I doubt the truth that no one on your island has been poisoned." Marquis Xianping took the small box. "Speaking of which, why is there so much purple grass on your island?" Chang Jing said, "It wasn't there from the beginning. It was planted by the first island master." Marquis Xianping looked at him. "The first island master? Your ancestor?" Chang Jing said, "The first island master's surname wasn't Chang. He was a very mysterious person. His memorial tablet was placed in the innermost part of the ancestral hall. Only the previous sect masters were qualified to worship him. I'm not the sect master yet, so I don't know his name. That kind of weeds was originally only on our island. Later, some people secretly dug them up. I don't understand. What's so good about weeds?" "So the weeds in the 6 nations?" "No, the purple grass all came from the Dark Night Island?" Chang Jing snorted coldly. "It's useless to dig them up. This kind of weeds can only bloom and bear fruit on the Dark Night Island. The first island master was a very powerful person. He created the Dark Night sect, which was much more powerful than the Lord of Shadows. He didn't accept any rebuttal. In Puqing, he always heard the people of the Shadow sect boasting about the first Lord of Shadows. Little Chang Jing was a little rebellious. Marquis Xianping didn't know the use of this information, but he still secretly remembered it. Then he looked at Chang Jing and saw that his face was very ugly. He raised his hand and rubbed his head. He said amusedly, "Who are you showing your bitter face to?" Chang Jing expressed his dissatisfaction with his behavior and said bitterly, "A man's head and a woman's waist can only be seen, not touched." Marquis Xianping laughed out loud. "A man? Is your hair all grown out?" Chang Jing looked up at the sky. In a moment he turned his back, lowered his head, and opened his belt to take a look. Marquis Xianping was speechless. Before dawn, Marquis Xianping packed up his things and set off. The purple grass was the most important thing. He put a layer of wax on the outside of the wooden box and wrapped it tightly with a layer of cowhide. In this way, even if it was wet in the wind and snow, it wouldn't be soaked. In addition, there were some dry food to eat on the road, ropes for first aid, and so on. Chang Kuan ordered people to pack them in a sealable basket. There was a little space left in the basket, just enough to put the wooden box. With Chang Kuan and the 7 sisters watching, Chang Jing definitely couldn't leave. Yi Qing was poisoned. Although he ate the fruit, he was still unconscious for several days. However, Marquis Xianping originally didn't plan to bring the 2 of them. He wanted to save his son. Chang Jing and Yi Qing were other people's sons. He set off alone without alerting anyone. Chang Jing was very sad. He sat in the room, hugging the glass marbles that he secretly brought back, and didn't sleep for the whole night. In the courtyard, Chang Ying glanced at her brother's closed door, frowned, and chased after him. At the place where they went ashore yesterday, there were already guards prepared a snowmobile. Marquis Xianping walked over. The guard saluted him. Hero Xiao, this is the Island Master's snowmobile. It's the lightest material and the fastest. In addition, the direwolf has also been changed. Marquis Xianping could see that whether it was the snowmobile or the direwolf, they were much better than when they came. Marquis Xianping said, "Thank the Island Master for me." The guard said, "The Island Master said this is what he should do." Marquis Xianping prepared to set off. At this moment, a cold murderous aura came from behind him. Marquis Xianping's eyes moved. He dodged, turned around and hit the other side with a palm. The other side nimbly dodged and slashed at him with a knife. Marquis Xianping recognized the other side. It was Changjing's eldest sister, Changying. Strange, why did she want to assassinate him? The two exchanged 10 moves. Marquis Xianping didn't use his true strength. The other side looked fierce, but in fact he didn't really kill. After another move, Changying was repelled. She stepped on the ice 10 steps away from Marquis Xianping. She coldly looked at Marquis Xianping. Sure enough, the person who kidnapped my brother was you. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found online are all here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896428226/10517657 HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. Chapter 896. The latest chapter of the book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Marquis Xianping squinted his eyes slightly. Changying said lightly, "I've sparred with my brother. His swordsmanship has many moves that we don't have in the Dark Knight sect, and his body movement is similar to yours. I'm guessing that my brother has been by your side all these years, right? You came back to the Dark Knight Island this time just for the weeds in the back mountain, right?" Changjing went behind their backs to dig weeds. Did she really think that they didn't know? Marquis Xianping suddenly realized. So that's how you exposed yourself. Changying pointed her sword at him. If you admit it, it means that you're very smart. If you quibbled just now, I would have ordered you to be killed. Marquis Xianping smiled. If I'm not smart, I can't become friends with the fairies, right? Changying snorted and said, "What kind of truth are you spouting?" As long as the fairies were telling the truth, everything else was the truth. Changying continued. Although you kidnapped my brother, from what I know about him, if you didn't treat him sincerely, he wouldn't have brought you back to the island. Do you know that there's only one kind of people who have set foot on our island these years? Who? Marquis Xianping asked. Lovers. Marquis Xianping. Changying put away her sword. For my brother's sake, I won't tell my father about you. Marquis Xianping smiled. Thank you. Then, I'll take my leave. Stop. Changying stopped him. Marquis Xianping asked politely, Fairy, do you have any other orders? Calling her a fairy really makes one's heart bloom with joy. Originally, I promised my younger sisters that I would let them beat you up one by one. Forget it, I'll forgive you. Changying whistled. A snow-white direwolf with a flame mark on its head jumped down from the island. This direwolf's aura was different from other wolves, like an alpha. It came to Changying's side and Changying knelt down on one knee. Stroking its head, she said to Xianping Ho, "The Spirit King is the strongest wolf on our island. I only obtained it because I saw it injured by chance. I have never even lent it to my father, but today, I will lend it to you. The Spirit King is extremely sensitive to snowstorms. In fact, all direwolves can sense the arrival of a snowstorm, but the Spirit King knows better than them how to avoid a snowstorm." As she spoke, she thought of something, and her expression turned solemn. She warned Marquis Xianping, "Remember, if the Spirit King refuses to lead the way, then there's no way to avoid it. You must not force your way in." Marquis Xianping nodded. I understand. Then, how am I supposed to return it, and the dire wolf to you after I cross the ice field? Chang'ing said. You don't have to worry about that. The Spirit King will bring them back. Marquis Xianping cupped his hands. Farewell, Fairy Chang. Even calling her a fairy sounded so serious. Who would suspect that it was fake? When it came to coaxing women, Marquis Xianping had never stumbled before, except for Princess Xinyang. Chang'ing placed the Spirit King at the head of the first row and fastened the reins for it. She then whispered a few words into its ear in a soft voice. It was a gentle reminder. Lead the way for the guest, but you must also take care of yourself. You must return to my side alive. After bidding farewell to Chang'ing, Marquis Xianping sat on the snowy carriage, put on his animal skin gloves, and grabbed the reins tightly. With a loud shout, the Spirit King led the dire wolves and rushed out. On a high mountain slope, Chang Kuren and his son watched as Marquis Xianping and the dire wolves gradually disappeared into the distance. Chang Jing was wearing thick leather and a hat that covered his ears. The braids that his sister had braided neatly hung over his shoulders. His eyes were clean and clear, but they were filled with sorrow. This was not a look that a 17 or 18-year-old boy should have. He was still too young and should not have such sorrow. Chang Kuan put his hands behind his back, using his large body to block the cold winter wind for his son. He sighed and said, Your sister lent the Spirit King to him. This is the most that we, the Dark Knight sect, can do for him. It is not that I am unwilling to lend it to others, but that it is meaningless. After seeing a natural disaster, one would know the insignificance of human strength. It was not something that martial arts could make up for. Chang Kuan could not bear to see his son's sorrowful eyes. He sighed and said, I promise you that after spring, I will destroy the sword hut. Chang Jing hugged a box of marbles and left without a word. The Zhao Kingdom. In the house on Vermilion Bird Avenue, after Princess Xinyang finished crying, she went to prepare clothes for Shang Guanqing. In the room, Princess Xinyang, who had collected her emotions, placed a large bundle on his table. Mother did not know that you were still alive. These clothes are your brother's. These clothes were all new. Xiao Heng had not worn them yet. Princess Xinyang could have lied and said that she had someone go to a shop to buy them for him. But she did not do so. Shang Guanqing did not need her to do so. You are not in a hurry to leave tonight? Princess Xinyang asked. Yes, we leave tomorrow morning. Xiao Heng heard his words from outside the door and frowned slightly. Didn't they say that they would stay for 3 days? Why did they leave tomorrow morning? Could it be? Yes, the poison in Shang Guanqing's body had begun to worsen rapidly. The medicine that the Imperial Preceptor Hall had prepared for him was gradually losing its effectiveness. He could not last for 3 days. He could take a large bottle in one go, but the price would be to fall into a coma. He would peacefully pass away in his sleep. This was the medicine's last mercy to him. But he did not want to eat. He did not want to sleep. He wanted to see his mother properly and be himself for once. He did not want to sleep in the last few hours of his life. He would rather endure the pain of being cut into pieces and leave this world clearly. Princess Xinyang's heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. She smiled slightly. Then mother will accompany you tonight, okay? He just couldn't bring himself to say no. He was going to die. Just let him be willful for once. He also wanted to lie by his mother's side. He wanted to be closer to her one last time. Both mother and son were reluctant to sleep. Princess Xinyang sat at the head of the bed and told him about the Zhao Kingdom. Actually, she wanted to hear more about his life in the Yan Kingdom. How he grew up, what he liked to do, what he did not like to do, and what he experienced. But she knew that he did not have any strength left. He was like a weak baby lying quietly by her side, holding her hand. He almost did not even have the strength to breathe. Mother likes to plant flowers. There are many peonies in the greenhouse. If you like, mother will pick a few for you tomorrow morning. How could a boy like peonies? Her heart was in chaos. Tears wantonly swept across her heart. She could not tell what she was saying. What about my father? He suddenly weakly asked. What kind of person is he? Princess Xinyang's thoughts cleared up in a second. She pondered for a long time, but she really did not know how to describe that man. After a while she quietly said, "He is a good father." On the ice field, white snow covered the vast expanse. Marquis Xianping and the 11 direwolves were galloping in the cold wind. Marquis Xianping stood on the snow cart. Behind him, the dark clouds rolled, and the entire sky was gloomy. On the way here, the Spirit King had already led him and the rest of the direwolves to avoid 2 snowstorms and an avalanche. Even now, it was still running forward without sparing any effort. Under its lead, none of the direwolves fell due to exhaustion or cowardice. Marquis Xianping had to control the direction and balance of the snow cart, so he could not rest. The lake on the way back had already frozen. He thought that there was no need to go around, but because of the onslaught of the snowstorm, they still had to change course from time to time. They passed through the land and arrived on top of the ice layer of a lake. Marquis Xianping looked at the direwolf in front of him. His brows slightly furrowed as he said, "The Spirit King is running so fast. Is there going to be another snowstorm?" An ominous premonition rose from the bottom of his heart. He felt that the upcoming snowstorm would not be so simple. He pulled on the reins tightly. A loud rumble came from behind him. Not good. It was an avalanche. "The Spirit King!" He shouted loudly. The Spirit King seemed to have sensed something. It increased its speed again, and the direwolves also sped up with it. Marquis Xianping turned his head to look. He saw the snow on the snowy mountain collapsing in patches, like a flood of ice and snow sweeping in their direction. The Spirit King suddenly changed course, making a sharp turn to the right. The entire team of snow carts was led astray by it, turning to the right. They went from the land to the ice layer of the lake. Marquis Xianping's snow cart was at the very back of the team. They had almost been thrown out by this sharp turn. To think that he had originally thought that it was exciting to drive this thing. But now he felt that it was too dangerous. Chang Jing was truly someone who had grown up playing snow carts. Her little heart was not ordinarily strong. Marquis Xianping was blown to the point that his face was paralyzed. Not long after they had made the turn, the flood of the avalanche had flooded the place they had just been. It spread all the way, and even the small mountain had been swallowed up. If the Spirit King had not made the sharp turn, the entire snow cart team would have been swallowed up by the avalanche. Marquis Xianping secretly let out a sigh of relief. But before he could finish his sigh of relief, a cracking sound came from the ice layer behind him. Marquis Xianping's eyebrows jumped. Crack, 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 crack. The muffled cracking sound came from under the ice. White cracks extended from the inside of the ice layer. The entire ice layer was like an ice blue amber candy that was about to be smashed by someone. The water temperature under the ice layer was extremely low. After falling in, one would be completely numb. In this world, there was not a single expert that could swim in this low temperature. Crack. Digression. Isn't it early today? Do you have early monthly tickets? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that cannot be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_8964286/1051755512. HTML Genius remembered this website's address in a second. www.zhbqg.com Bikugo mobile reading website. Chapter 897. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that cannot be found online are all here. The corner of Marquis Xianping's mouth twitched. How can we be so unlucky? We just avoided the avalanche and now this. The Spirit King's speed had already reached its limit, but it had to break through its limit again. Otherwise, its companions and that human would all be buried here. The Spirit King gritted its teeth, facing the wind and galloping. The ice on both sides was the first to break. It was unable to turn onto the shore from either side, so it could only bravely move forward. Boom! The ice under the snow cart finally could not hold on, and completely cracked. Seeing that the snow cart was about to fall into the ice hole, the Spirit King suddenly accelerated. The snow cart whizzed past. The Spirit King led the direwolf in a mad dash, the ice behind the snow cart cracking. This was much more dangerous than fighting a war. Fighting a war was fighting with people, and was controllable. This was fighting with the extreme weather of the entire ice field. The slightest carelessness would cause the entire army to be wiped out. Marquis Xianping's heart was in his throat. He had never experienced such a thrilling experience in his life. If it happened another 2 times, his heart would not be able to take it. Fortunately, they had finally reached the shore. A man and a row of direwolves were all lying in the snow panting. Most of the time, the Wolf King would follow its master's orders. However, if it encountered danger, it would disobey its master's orders and find its own way. Marquis Xianping said in amusement. Fortunately, it's not a simpleton. It's an experienced Wolf King. He took out dry rations and food, and filled his stomach with the direwolves, planning to continue on their journey. However, this time, the Spirit King refused to leave no matter what. Marquis Xianping walked down the snow cart, and came to the front of the group, checking the Spirit King's reins and wolf claws. Everything was normal. Spirit King, it's time to set off. Marquis Xianping patted its back that was filled with strength. The Spirit King remained unmoving. After a moment, it circled around the same spot a few times, its eyes faintly revealing a sense of unease. Marquis Xianping roughly understood that there was a snowstorm up ahead. Previously, when they encountered snowstorms, the Spirit King had chosen to lead the way and did not show any signs of unease. The snowstorm this time was more severe than they had imagined. The Spirit King let out a low cry of fear, and retreated a few steps back. The entire pack of wolves felt the signal from the alpha wolf and became restless. Finally, the Spirit King turned around and ran back with the pack of wolves. The ice layer had already broken, so they couldn't go straight, so they took a detour to the east. In short, they could no longer advance recklessly toward Great Yin. They were already halfway there. If they returned to the Dark Night Island now, all their efforts would be in vain. Xianpingho's intuition told him that this was his only and last chance to pass through the ice field. Once he missed it, the entire chilly winter forest would never be able to leave the ice field again. Remember, if the Spirit King refuses to lead the way, then there is no way to avoid it. You must not force your way in. Chang Ying's warning flashed through his mind, and Marquis Xianping's eyes darkened. Qing was still waiting for him to retrieve the purple grass. Even if he had to go through a mountain of swords and a sea of flames, even if he had to go through the underworld, he still had to charge through. His gaze landed on the direwolf, and after a moment, he pulled out his long blade. Go back, direwolf, your mission is complete. I will walk the rest of the way by myself. He raised his blade and cut off all the reins on the direwolves. There was no need to carry any weight, and the wolves immediately ran far away. The Spirit King stopped in time, and turned around to look at Marquis Xianping. The blizzard was coming, and this human would die. He felt the human's kindness, but he had to bring his wolves back alive. Marquis Xianping grabbed the basket on the snow cart, and resolutely charged into the coming blizzard. Marquis Xianping didn't remember how many days he had walked in the blizzard. His face had long lost feeling, and he couldn't even close his mouth. His hands and feet were numb from the cold, and his body was extremely stiff. He was like a walking corpse, moving forward step by step. His legs went soft, and he staggered and fell, kneeling on one knee on the ground. His long saber stabbed into the hard layer of ice to support his body that was on the verge of collapsing. He couldn't fall here. Qing was still waiting for him. He had to go back. His palm was frozen and cracked, and under the ice layer, it left a shocking bloody handprint. His body temperature continued to drop, and he couldn't find a place to shelter himself from the wind and rain. He seemed to be lost, and he didn't even know how long it would take for him to reach the end. Finally, his strength couldn't support him, and he fell head first onto the cold and hard ice. When he woke up, the blood flowing down from his forehead had already dried. He moved his body that was almost petrified, and climbed up with great difficulty. He picked up the long blade on the ice, and using the blade as a crutch, he continued to walk towards his destination. His strength was gradually exhausted, and when a glacier collapsed in front of him, he didn't have the strength to escape. His first reaction was not to save himself, but to throw out the basket on his back. With a loud boom, his entire body was pressed under the glacier. The basket was broken, and the things inside tumbled out. The leather covering the small box was also cut open by the sharp ice. A gust of wind blew. Marquis Xianping's expression changed and his hoarse voice almost couldn't make a sound. Don't! Plop! The leather was blown open by the wind, and the small box fell into the hole in the ice. The small box floated away with the water under the ice. Marquis Xianping's heart was filled with great sorrow. He raised his hand and forcefully pushed away the glacier on his body. His dantian was damaged, and he couldn't use any internal energy. His fingers were bloody from clawing, but he couldn't move the glacier on his body at all. Don't go! Don't go! He looked at the small box floating away under the ice, and he was so anxious that the red veins in his eyes exploded one by one. What floated away under the ice was not a small box, but his son's life. Ah! He let out an angry and compassionate roar, and used the power of his life to push the glacier on his body. Bang! While he was pushing the glacier on his end, he also increased the pressure on the other end of the glacier. The ice on the lake cracked open. A series of small pieces of ice fell into the ice hole and flowed down, hitting the small box. The small box was pushed further and further away. If this continued, he would lose it. Marquis Xianping looked at the gray sky and felt a deep sense of despair. He wasn't afraid of death. He was only afraid that if he died, no one would be able to bring the purple grass back. Why did he have to do this to him? 20 years ago he wasn't able to save Qing. Could it be that this time he would also end up in failure? He turned his head to look for the small box under the ice, but suddenly caught a glimpse of a tall figure in the biting cold wind and snow. Was it an illusion? Here, how could there be someone? The other person walked towards him step by step. It was a man wrapped in thick fur, wearing a fox-skin cloak, and the hood of the cloak covered his appearance. There was a long sword at his waist that was emitting a threatening cold aura, which complemented his lonely and cold aura. Beside him was a direwolf that looked like a spirit king. When he got closer, Marquis Xianping finally recognized him. Longyi. Digression. Third watch, Love is Cute. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_896/1051725880. HTML Genius will remember this site's address in a second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. Chapter 898. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found on the internet are all available here. Xianping Ho completely did not expect to run into Longyi here. Longyi was wearing that mask which he had never taken off since entering the princess mansion. Maybe he had also changed it, merely it was the same every time. Strange, didn't Longyi follow Aheng to the northeast to negotiate with Chenghua? When he left Xuyang City to look for medicine, Xiaoheng had not yet arrived at the northwest border. Naturally, he did not know that Longyi had already separated from Xiaoheng. He subconsciously looked behind Longyi. In the endless wind and snow, he did not see a second figure. This was even more strange. Longyi had appeared here alone? In addition, the feeling Longyi gave him seemed to be different. Xianping Ho's brain had already been frozen long ago. He could only think so much. Very quickly, he remembered the proper business. He opened his mouth with a hoarse voice which was difficult to distinguish, but he discovered that all his voice was drowned out by the whistling wind and snow. He was not sure if Long Yi had recognized him. After all, he had been wasted by the blizzard for many days. He was already in a difficult situation, and even he could not recognize himself. Long Yi stood on a piece of intact ice layer, and did not immediately come over. The direwolf beside him also seemed to have the intention to stop Long Yi. It stood on the edge of the ice layer, and used its nose to sniff the faintly discernible crack. I can't go over. I can't even take a single step. Bang! Xianping Ho also heard the cracking sound of the ice layer below him. This ice layer was about to be unable to bear the weight of the glacier. Before long, he and this glacier would sink into the ice-cold water. He had already lost all feeling below his waist. He raised his head and gasped for breath, recovering a bit of strength. He no longer struggled and tried to stabilize the ice layer below him. Long Yi. He finally had the strength to call out. Why did you come? Are you alone? Long Yi answered. This was the answer to his second question. He was nearby and heard the voice of Xianping Ho, so he came over to take a look. Xianping Ho weakly replied, and in a flash his eyes trembled. Wait a minute, just now Long Yi spoke? He spoke. Marquis Xianping had seen Empress Dowager Zhuang and Gu Jiao. He had already learned some things about Long Yi from them, and knew that he was actually not the shadow dragon guard left behind by the late emperor for Qin Fengwan. He had lost his memory. However, he thought of himself as the dragon shadow guard and became speechless. Long Yi's gaze fell on Marquis Xianping and that glacier, as if he was thinking about how to save Marquis Xianping. He took off the leather glove on his right hand, and his well-defined hand pressed on the sword at his waist. Marquis Xianping understood what he wanted to do. He wanted to split the glacier with his sword and use his qin gong to save him. With Long Yi's ability, he naturally could do it. However, the power of this attack was too great. It would cause the water to surge rapidly, and countless ice shards would rush into the water, washing away the small box completely. He didn't have time to go back and forth to the Dark Night Island. Long Yi, don't worry about me. Go and find that small box. Long Yi's gaze swept around. He saw a small box slowly floating under the layer of ice. The small box was surrounded by red paraffin wax, which was very eye-catching. If he wanted to catch the small box, he had to break the layer of ice, and the layer of ice in this area was already in danger. Once it was broken, Marquis Xianping would be pressed into the water by the glacier, and even Long Yi wouldn't be able to pick him up. There was no hesitation or fear in the eyes of Marquis Xianping. He smiled and said, "Give the small box to Jiao Jiao. She knows what to do." He was not Long Yi's master, nor was he Long Yi's partner. Long Yi could refuse to listen to him. Long Yi. He looked at Long Yi. As proud as he was, he had never begged anyone in his life. However, his tone was definitely not commanding. He suddenly laughed at himself. In any case, your master doesn't like me, so it doesn't matter whether I die or not. Inside the box is the medicine for her son, and her son is gone. Your master should be sad. In November, Xuyang City was covered in pure white snow. Several days had passed since Xiaoheng and Shang Guanqing set out. It's the middle of the month, Gu Jiao said. Marquis Xianping set out early in the morning of October 16th. It had been almost a month, and she didn't know whether he had obtained the purple grass or not. Although Shang Guanqing gave up waiting for the antidote, she didn't give up on this side. She was calculating the final deadline in her heart. She looked at the map in her hand and sighed. If I can't get the antidote tonight, then I really won't be able to catch up. Tonight, Marquis Xianping didn't return. In the morning, Gu Jiao woke up early as usual. She planned to feed Black Wind King, then go to the wounded barracks to check the wards. Just when she got out of bed, her right leg kicked something. She looked down and saw that it was a small box covered in red wax. There was a layer of thin ice on the wax. Who put it here? I clearly didn't see this box last night. Did someone come in at night? A series of question marks flashed through the mind of Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao picked up the small box, and surprisingly, she saw a familiar charcoal pencil. Long Yi. It was Long Yi. He was the one who put the box here. Gu Jiao carried the small box out of the tent, and bumped into Teacher who had come to bring her hot water. Teacher who hurriedly retreated, But unfortunately he couldn't. Seeing that they were about to bump into each other, Gu Jiao nimbly moved to the side. Teacher Hu staggered a few steps, but in any case he steadied his body. He looked back at Gu Jiao, who had suddenly rushed out of the tent, and asked with lingering fear, "My lady, do you have something urgent? Did you see a person? This place is full of people. This tall." Gu Jiao gestured, wearing a mask and a long sword at his waist. Teacher Hu shook his head. "No, are you talking about an assassin? He had a mask and a sword, and he was so tall and big. Just thinking about it made people feel afraid." "Forget it, he didn't even wake me up. Presumably he didn't want to alarm anyone." Gu Jiao lowered her eyes and returned to the tent with the small box. Teacher Hu scratched his head. "Why do I feel that my lady's mood is a little low?" Gu Jiao sat down beside the small table and placed the small box and the charcoal pencil on the carpet on the table. Only then did she notice that there was a piece of paper sealed in a layer of ice at the top of the small box. She broke the layer of ice, carefully took out the paper, and slowly spread it on the table. It was a picture drawn with a charcoal pencil. From the moment Xiao Heng decided to help Long Yi recall his memories, he began to teach Long Yi how to speak and read. However, according to Xiao Heng, Long Yi preferred to draw. In the picture was a man who was pressed under a glacier in a snowstorm. The layer of ice under the man's body cracked, and a small red box floated under the layer of ice in the distance. Near the origin ice was an endless mountain range. That was Great Yan's Biling Pass. Seeing this, Gu Jiao understood everything. The man who was pressed under the glacier was Marquis Xianping. He walked through the harsh origin ice, and when he was about to reach the border of Yan country, he encountered the glacier breaking. Perhaps he himself didn't know that he had already reached the border. He was only 1 li away from the shore. He was the first person to cross the origin ice in the extreme winter weather, and he created an unimaginable miracle. Unfortunately, he gave all the miracles to his son, and didn't leave himself a chance to live. Long Yi should have just happened to pass by there, and Marquis Xianping gave up his life. In the cold winter he was pressed under the glacier, and even his corpse couldn't be salvaged. The small box on the table suddenly became very heavy. If A Hing heard this news, would she be very sad? Last time it was a landslide and this time it was a glacier. Why did she dream of it last time, but not this time? Gu Jiao couldn't figure it out, but no matter what, she couldn't wallow in the emotions brought about by this matter. This was something that Marquis Xianping brought back with his life. She couldn't let Marquis Xianping sacrifice his life in vain. Gu Jiao peeled off the wax on the outside and opened the small box. She found that aside from whole stalks of purple grass, there was also a box of purple flowers and a box of white fruits. Each fruit was about the size of a marble. There was a letter in the top layer of the box. It was a letter personally written by Marquis Xianping. On it, he recorded the information he had learned about the purple grass from Dark Night Island. Purple grass roots were very poisonous, and purple grass flowers were also poisonous, but the toxicity was not as good as the roots. Purple grass fruits could cure the poison of purple grass, but whether or not purple grass fruits had any effect on other poisons, it was unknown. In addition, purple grass fruits were completely non-toxic and had no side effects, unlike purple grass, which was very dangerous. Gu Jiao said, "If it can cure Sheng Guanqing's poison, that would be the best. If it can't, he will still need to take purple grass." She couldn't let go of any opportunity. Gu Jiao hurried to the alchemy room, grabbed a handful of purple grass, and extracted the poison from its roots. Then she boiled it into pills in the stove. She sealed the pills and called Wenren Chong. "I'm going out." Wenren Chong smelled the faint medicinal fragrance on her body and almost understood what was going on. "Are you going to chase His Highness Zhongsun? I'm afraid you won't be able to catch up with him. This morning, the people of the Inying division sent a pigeon to us. The waterway that His Highness Zhongsun took froze last night." The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. You can find all the novels that you can't find on the internet here. https://www.zhhbqg com/89642_896422826/1051569662. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuga mobile reading website. That you're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.